Tony Dunn, ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
Are the Carolina Panthers a wild card to win the wild card? Will Miles Sanders be traded after or cut for post-June 1st cuts? Can the Carolina Panthers cover 5 points in week 1? And how the heck are they going to win 6 or more games? We're going to find out tonight on the C3 Panthers Podcast. My name's Tony Dunn. It's the longest running Panthers podcast. It's Tuesday night, 9 p.m., where we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. I do it each and every week with my wheelman, Cody Lack. What's up, my friend?
Tony Dunn. Just when they tell us there's nothing to talk about on a Tuesday night relating to the Carolina Panthers, boy, you know that they underestimated the C3 Panthers podcast, baby. There's nowhere I'd rather be on a Tuesday night. We have a wonderful guest, as some of you can see. We're going to have a great discussion tonight. And yeah, man, lots of interesting tidbits going on around pricing in Germany, a little bit of Bryce Young's footwork maybe being cleaned up. But Tony, you know we're going to do it with the best damn Panther fans in all of YouTube. You already know them and love them. It's our boy Panther Pickle, the brand ambassador, Diesel Skills, Kobe Griffin, Jake the Snake, Just Don't Care, Muscles Marinara Paisan, what's up? D, what's up, D? Panther Gal 73, Sean Butler, the captain, and the Cardiac Cat 13. Tony Dunn, the crew's all here. Ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
The number's 252-228-5098. You can get your calls in on the Cat Calls line. We'll be featuring those later in the show. What's up, CK?
Oh, you know, living the dream. I'm going to keep this short and sweet as we don't want to eat too much into our guest time. But, man, I'm just happy to be here talking Panthers football with everybody here, everybody in the chat. It's just another great Tuesday to be hanging out with the boys. So happy to be here.
Well, I would say you know him and you love him, but you sure got to know him this week after Colin Cowherd show. Adam Chernoff from Right Ankle Sports. Welcome to the C3 Panthers Podcast. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. There's an energy level here I didn't realize I was walking into, so I'm going to try hang on to the end of a long workday here and try to deliver.
You're
some
good,
value.
man. We thank you for being here with us.
Hey, man, we this is how we all got through the pandemic. Like, we just hung out and talked sports with each other, and it was like everybody else was pining and crying about not getting out. I was like, man, I just hang out with my buddies every Tuesday night. So, man, it's been fun. But right now, well, first, thanks to Colby, who's in the chat for, starting to get this conversation rolling. But look, you've been the talk of the town when it comes to Carolina Panthers because of your most recent appearance on the Colin Cowherd show, where the line has been 4.5 wins for the Carolina Panthers. No primetime games for this team, and coming off a 2-15 season, and really the most disastrous season in the team's history, and a season that was so bad that you didn't think it could get worse than Matt Rule. And Frank Reich and his crew said, hold my beer. We'll show you how to do that. Adam, tell us a little bit about what you're thinking about the Carolina Panthers and what got everybody's attention on the Cowherd show.
Sure. So I think the important caveat is to kind of get out there. I come from the sports betting world, was a bookmaker and an odds maker for a long time. And now I work with what would be considered one of the top and most respected betting groups in the United States. And so all of my comments are kind of tailored back to the expectations that are put on the Carolina Panthers this year, which, depending where you look, I would say primarily now is 5.5 wins. And so that's really where a lot of the comments on the Cowherd show came from. I think got a lot of people's attention. And that's where I think a lot of the comments that I have, whether it's the trajectory I see comparable to the Jags in 21 and 22, whether it's the new coaching staff, whether it's the receivers and how they're going to be much more open and how they struggled last year. All of those comments kind of tie back to that expectation that's put on the Panthers this year. So I think that's an important caveat before we dive into certain areas here.
When the line was started at 4.5, as a former odds maker, bookmaker, why do you think it was placed at that? And then what has happened since you and your betting group has projected that? Not that it's more that's just an interesting bet to make if you were getting it at 4.5.
Yeah. So last year, for comparison's sake, the Panthers' expectation for the regular season wins was set at 7.5, and so this year when it opened at 4.5. Was a full 3 wins lower. That's a very big adjustment season to season for any team. And so the Panthers are kind of in rare territory when you're looking at an adjustment that big that didn't correspond with someone like a Tom Brady leaving New England, for example, where you're getting a massive shift due to quarterback. A lot of the pieces still in place from the offense last year to this year with some new additions. And so big adjustment in that regard. In terms of why did it move from 4.5 to 5.5? Well, we sent out and released the bet. Not only did we make the bet, we released it through our service, which anybody's able to follow and participate in. And that's quite common. Anytime that we take a stance or a position on a team in the NFL or in college football or college basketball, betting odds everywhere are going to move. And so last week on Wednesday, we played the Panthers over 5.5. All the 4.5s then changed to 5.5, and the 5.5s increased in price. So that's why we're seeing the movement so far.
Adam, on the Colin Cowherd show, you laid out all the reasons why you think people are a little too low on the Panthers. You mentioned their upgrades at left guard and right guard with Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt, and we've brought in some new weapons on offense. But I wanted you to elaborate a little more on our quarterback, Bryce Young. What kind of year do you think this is going to be for Bryce? What are you expecting of him in this offense with Dave Canales as a brand new play caller for him? And do you think that Bryce Young, basically that last year, you couldn't really get a proper evaluation of him as a player due to the team around him? Do you sort of fall into that camp where year one was almost sort of null and void for Bryce? And then what are you expecting out of him this year?
I think your latter point's fair. You look at the situation he was put into, coaching change. There was optimism when Brown was promoted and took over play calling duties. That never came to fruition. It was tough. Reminded me a lot of Trevor Lawrence's entrance into the league with Urban Meyer, how tumultuous that season was. I see a lot of parallels there. The reason I'm optimistic about Dave Canales taking over, as well as Idzik coming in as the offensive coordinator, when I'm looking at Canales and his track record, he led Russell Wilson to his best career season in 2020. He then followed up and led Geno Smith to a season that was even better than what Russ had. And then he revived Baker Mayfield, who could barely get a starting job at the end of 2 seasons ago, and led him to his best career season last year with the Buccaneers. Idzik, the new offensive coordinator for the Panthers, worked with the wide receivers last year, and we saw Mike Evans have a big season as well. There's a lot of history with this coaching staff, as young as it is, to taking guys like Geno Smith or Baker Mayfield or even Russ at his tail end in Seattle. These were all guys that there were a lot of doubts around, and the expectations shifted in a big way. And Geno and Baker were basically written off, and Canales ended up basically reviving them. And so when we're thinking about Bryce Young after that season he had, he very much fits that mold to what Canales has done in his previous stops of elevating that quarterback play. And I think that it fits in very well, going from Reich and kind of an antiquated offense that was really struggling towards the tail end of his coaching career. Now you get a young, modern, offensive focused staff. I think that that's a much better situation. And similar to how when Peterson took over in the Jags, there was kind of that new offensive voice leading the way. You saw the Jags in 2022, after that horrible debut season for Lawrence, make that playoff run. Again, Panthers' expectations, 5.5 wins, definitely think they exceed that. But if you're thinking the floor last year and the expectations there was 7.5 wins, if they get back to that level, a little bit of overachievement has them on the fringe for a wild card berth.
Sure. Another one more second, Tony. Another follow-up question I wanted to ask. This is actually from our guy Cody, who helped to get you on the show tonight. And when you make those projections for the Panthers, how much of that is also based on the division? So give us sort of an abridged version of what you think overall of the NFC South and where the Panthers stack up with the other teams in this division.
Yeah, so schedule is a big part of it for sure. When you're looking and trying to evaluate the strength of schedule, it goes well beyond just win losses from a season ago. We're trying to actively project where all of these teams are going to finish in 2024. And there's a lot that goes into that. And so the division around them, I think, is a very good place to start when you're thinking about not only how easy this schedule projects because of how the Panthers finished. There's a lot of uncertainty in the NFC South around them. We have a Saints offense that's going through a significant change after Carmichael departs. He's been there since the start of the Drew Brees era. And so the switch to Kubiak, that's no guarantee. That's a massive shift in philosophy, a massive shift in play calling too, that still has to go right. We just talked about Dave Canales. He leaves the Buccaneers. When he left Russell Wilson and Geno Smith, both of those guys fell off a cliff performance-wise. Yeah. And so what's going to happen to Baker Mayfield? That was a team that really overachieved last year.
Yep.
And then, of course, you have the Falcons. Everything looks great with Kirk Cousins and the coaching upgrade and everything that goes on there. They're the clear favorite. But, again, his health stepping in off of the injury, I think that's far from a guarantee as well. So just as there's a lot of questions around the Panthers, I think there's equally questions around everyone else in the division. And you're looking at this schedule and how it plays out. That Atlanta game in the middle of October is going to be significant. But pre-bye, I mean, the only other real game that you're looking at as like kind of what I would say like out of league or out of your weight class, if you will, for the Panthers would be that Cincinnati game at the end of September, which happens to be a home game too. And so if I'm thinking about a new offense coming in, and all the scheme install for the Panthers, the schedule pre-bye is pretty friendly to get things right. So you're right. This is a schedule that I think is going to play easier. I think there's a ton of questions in the division, and I think the start is pretty favorable for Carolina.
Right now, the over-under for passing yards for Bryce Young that I found is 3,200 yards. How do bookmakers, or as when you were a bookmaker, how do you go about trying to forecast that number, and what do you think about that figure?
A lot comes down to trying to get a good projection on how many games the quarterback is going to play. Obviously, that's a big part. For example, Tua last year ends up playing every game, leads the league in passing. That always is correlated heavily to how many passing yards a quarterback will have. A lot of very strong models and projections out there. I would say the best advice that I would have now from a betting side, take as many different projections as you can, combine them together, and then you can run some basic sims and in Excel or Sheets, or there's tools that you can use to try come up with a number. That's typically the approach that we take now from a betting perspective. When I'm looking at that number specifically, I'm much more of a subjective handicapper. And so what that means is reading a lot of news, looking at a lot of press conferences, watching a lot of games, trying to understand it more from the non-math perspective. We've got guys on our team who are much more numbers driven, much more smarter than I'll ever be when it comes to stuff like that. So that, to me, that 3,200 yard number is probably a little bit short. And I would equate that primarily to the receivers and how much more they're going to be open. Last year, something that just killed the Panthers weekly was none of these guys could separate aside from Thielen. The DJ Chark's separation, if you're looking at next-gen stats, was among the worst in the league. Same thing when you're looking at other guys on the receivers room as well. Tight ends couldn't get open. Marshall couldn't get open. Like it was
a mess.
It was a mess.
They were terrible. Players were terrible. Everything was terrible. There was nothing.
We also got the worst version of all of them. The worst Terrace Marshall Jr., like the worst performances that you could have gotten out of those guys.
Mingo couldn't get open. Like it was, you guys know it as well as the fans. Now you add Deontay Johnson. I think he's one of the most underrated route runners in all of football. That's going to complement Thielen very well. Probably most concerned about Leggett. Some of the knocks on him coming out of college were specifically his route running. But something I found interesting is Brad Idzik's press conference, his introductory one. He's had a follow-up one since. He's not as like in control as other offensive coordinators represent themselves to be. And he comes from the wide receivers a coaching background, and he's got a lot out of guys for being as young as he is. And so a lot of his answers to questions since he's been in Panthers Blue taking questions at the podium have been kind of around delegation. And so that leads me to believe he's still going to have a massive focus on the wide receiver room. And so if you're adding that in, that was certainly absent a year ago, as were guys like Johnson and his route running ability. That gives me a lot of optimism about the Panthers offense in general, which to me, you're looking at that 3,200 yard number, 400 more compared to last season isn't that big of a leap.
Yeah, 188 a game. Again, it comes back, like you said, to how many games he can survive. Upgraded offensive line.
Yeah.
Right now, 18.5 passing touchdowns is the number. Do you think that's a fair number? What do you think about that prop?
I don't have much of an opinion on the TD number, but I do think that passing yards number is on the lower side at 3,200. So I'd have much stronger conviction if you were looking to support the team with a season-long future on Young's passing yards over, more so than I would the touchdown side.
All right, I got one last question. I'll let you guys finish it out. How the heck does Vegas get it? Or well, I call it Vegas, the sports book. How the heck do they get it so on the button each and every damn week? I hear people say, oh, NFL's the toughest thing to bet. Baseball's the toughest. Everything is the toughest thing to bet. How are they so on the damn nose?
It's I wish I had an answer that was like some secret that could be revealed and everyone found it interesting. The truth is it's a very boring answer. When you have so many people betting, every bet that is made reflects an opinion. And the way that sportsbooks can now grade players and profile them, they know exactly who has good info, who has bad info, and the projections and the models are becoming so good. It's just a matter of putting a price on the board and moving it till you get to the right price where you have agreement as close to as possible on both sides. And with the volume of bets that are coming in, that's now easier to do than ever. It's really, there's no secret. It's just a lot of people are betting. Sportsbooks are getting very good at profiling bettors, and numbers are sharper than they've ever been. There's really nothing too fancy to it. It's really, really quite rudimentary, which is unfortunate because it would be a lot more fun if there was kind of a secret answer behind the curtain, but there just isn't.
Yeah, well, Adam, again, we thank you so much for coming on the show. You've offered a bunch of insights. The fans in the chat are getting hyped just off the info that you're telling them. But my final question to you is, Panthers or not, is there an NFL team this year that you feel is the most interesting story to follow? Like, is there a certain team? So, for example, I'm really interested to see what Harbaugh does with Justin Herbert and the Chargers. If we play them our first home game of the year, I think that's an interesting matchup. Is there a certain team that you're really interested in following, maybe based on some of the moves that they made in the offseason or even some of the draft picks that they've made?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple that just come to mind off the top of my head. So the Jets, to me, it's the team that I grew up a fan of and have been a fan of my entire life. I think the drama that is set up around them with the Aaron Rodgers stuff, with the way that the media, even now in late May, there's been 4 stories about the team in the offseason that have been primarily false, that are just out there to try to draw attention. I think they're going to be such a massive media target. And it's a chance for a franchise that hasn't been to the playoffs in 14 years to actually make a good run. I think they're going to be kind of must-watch TV the entire season. I just today was working through a lot of things with the Cleveland Browns and trying to figure out their offense with Ken Dorsey coming in as the offensive coordinator. That was a team that won 11 games last year, starting just a mess of 4 quarterbacks. And now you have a guy in Ken Dorsey who Panthers fans will know well, got a ton out of Cam Newton in 2015, then went to Buffalo and got a ton out of Josh Allen. So I think can Dorsey revive what might be left of Deshaun Watson and give the Browns average quarterback play for the first time in several seasons? How good could that team be if they're able to get that? Because they're winning 11 games with absolutely nobody at quarterback a year ago.
Joey Flacco is not just anybody, you know.
Oh my God!
Well, so I'll go advanced stats here. EPA per play, there were 49 quarterbacks who had at least 120 pass attempts last year. The Browns started quarterback 48 and quarterback 49 of 49 for multiple games. And then they had 26 and 27 starting the rest of the games. And so I'm saying nobody relative to the stat, but I mean, if Dorsey gets something out of Watson and gets him to quarterback 14, 15 in the league, how good can that Browns team be? I think that's a kind of a team that's a little bit under the radar. So those are two AFC-based storylines that maybe a diehard NFC South podcast like this around the Panthers maybe isn't top of mind to think about here in late May.
All right, fantastic. Did we miss the boat on the over/under for the wins for the Panthers? I feel like now I'm like, oh God. I was like 4.5. I was like, okay, we can throw some money at this and have some fun. Is it getting riskier now that you guys screwed it up for us?
Yeah, I wouldn't say run in and take over 5.5. It's probably about minus 135 is the price most would find. I would say if you want two other alternatives to look at, that Bryce Young over 3,200, I think would be an interesting one that even if you're just looking for fun, that's something you can follow along. You could also go division to win the NFC South 14-1. A lot of question marks around every other team. That could be a price that you could look at too.
Fantastic stuff. Adam, please tell everybody how they can not only access your work, but get insight into this wonderful betting advice.
Sure. So I'm on Twitter at Adam Chernoff, my name. I think it's spelled out in the comments as well. Pretty well. Thank you for putting that there. And then everything betting wise that I do is over at raspicks.com as well as bettingtalk.com, uploading NFL information every single day now through kickoff and through the entire season. So if you're a bettor out there and you want more, that would be over there on the channel.
Awesome stuff. Thank you for your time, man. You have a great night.
Thanks very much for having me, guys. Enjoy the rest of the offseason.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, thank you, man.
All right. A little breath of fresh air when it comes to the Carolina Panthers, or at least the news around the Carolina Panthers is, hey, don't sleep on the Panthers at 4.5. But don't get too hype at 5.5.
Yeah. Don't get too excited. He made a lot of buzz going on Cowherd Show. There aren't too many people that are really sort of, projecting the Panthers to really sort of at least impress in any kind of fashion this year. But he made great points, and his points that we've been saying for a long time, guys, that when you look at Dave Canales and what he was able to do with Russell Wilson and then Geno Smith and then Baker Mayfield, like those aren't just nothing numbers. That really does mean something. I think that's a reason to be excited about Bryce and his future here in Carolina. Tony, I've said to you before, I think Dave Canales and Deontay Johnson are a match made in heaven. I believe that's a player-coach combo where those two are going to get the best out of one another. And, yeah, Adam made some great points, man. And once again, Colby, if you're listening, thank you so much, brother. If it wasn't for our incredible C3 fans out there doing work for the boys, that wouldn't have been possible, man. So, Colby, we appreciate you, brother.
Absolutely.
Big shout out to Just Don't Care, who obviously does care about his friends in the chat. Gifted 5 C3 Panthers podcast memberships. Thank you very much for that. And also just thanks for everybody hanging out. Call in at 252-228-5098. Let's jump into the show. CK, let's start with you since we didn't let you ask any questions. You're not the biggest bettor, though, out of all of us.
But it's not that. I just knew he was in a bit of a hurry, and you guys were asking such great questions. I just wanted to keep that flow going because you guys were on top of it. So
we're going to give Cody time to pull up this teaser video for us as we pull this up. CK, how's it feel to be a host of a podcast all about the Panthers, and none of us have seen this trailer today yet?
It's
we saved it for this moment. You're going to see our live. It's an unboxing video of trailers.
Video. It's a live reaction video here to the trailer for the Blueprint, which it feels like we're having a brand new Blueprint every single.
Oh, I know. Is right. As we scrap the last Blueprint, let's draw up a new Blueprint. Was this the first that they released last year? The Panthers version of they used to do a training camp thing or something like that.
Yeah, well, this is sort of their version of it. The Panthers Blueprint
Of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, like this is their kind of version of it. But I think that we're also gonna see some of the front office stuff. And again, I have not seen this. We literally saved this.
The reprint.
We literally saved this for the show.
It better not be a duplicate. That's what we got to say. Is we don't need a reprint. We need we don't need a duplicate. We need a new edition.
Hey,
we need a new author. All right, let's see what we got here.
Hey, Kev better chill out. Get his stepson to roast his ass again.
You know, last year wasn't acceptable, and everybody in the building knows that wasn't acceptable. So we're going to do everything in our power to field a team that our fans can be proud of, that the Carolinas can be proud of.
Feel good now, blue man.
Feels good.
That red.
Guys, I don't ever want to lose this feeling.
I'm going to bring nastiness.
Let's commit to that.
If we want to be who we say we want to be, we just get tough as players that love football.
Oh. Otherwise known as
now I don't feel so guilty.
Dogs. Hell yeah.
I don't feel that guilty now.
Wait, I want to hear that last part again.
Who we say we want to be. We just get tough as players that love football.
Get tough ass players that love football. Sign me up. I think that we did just that. What do y'all make of the trailer? Are y'all excited? Like, do y'all even get excited for this stuff anymore? Part of me is like, I'm excited for it, but I know it's a little bit propaganda as well.
Oh, it's
you
not just a little bit. It is full-blown propaganda.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely
completely edited. And you mean like what I'm saying? But yeah, I am excited because I've been a giant proponent of these billion-dollar organizations using their strength of money and the direct access to create more content, right? And like the idea that, I mean, look, as people, we used to have one of the biggest Twitters as a team, but like the Panthers YouTube numbers are like embarrassing. And it's because they put out lame ass content. And you could do so much more with it. And it doesn't take a fucking $1 million team to do, right? No. You could get a couple of 20-year-olds who are good at video editing, one old hat journalist that is good at storytelling. And you get out there and you I would be putting out minute-long clips of everything like this, like teaser to like, it's like in the weight room. They walking onto the field. You know what I mean? Like you could just it's
propaganda.
But I think, I think it's also like when you're on top, you don't have to feel like you have to do all of the small things. Is like, you're just like, hey man, unless Coca-Cola is going to pay. I mean, if you notice this, Blueprint is sponsored by Coca-Cola. Right. So not only the Panthers didn't just shell out the money to do this, they made sure someone else paid for it.
Yeah, smart. As they should.
Smart. I mean, it's smart, but it's also like, we're not going to do it unless you are PSL. We're not going to. I mean, I don't know. I'm just, I always have the thought that, like, I mean, look, Mr. Beast didn't make $1 bazillion by waiting for somebody to give him a sponsorship to blow up a car. He just blew up he just was like, here's $10,000. And it made him $100,000.
You know, Amazon gave him a show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's making his own show, and he's promised that there's going to be no producers telling him what to do. He's in control of the whole thing.
Well, he lives here, man. His whole studio operation is in my town here in Greenville, North Carolina. And every now and then you'll be like, I saw something a couple of weeks ago. It was like, city board allows explosive explosions or some shit. We're like, oh, Mr. Beast blowing up some shit. Yeah, man, they're just doing it across the river, exploding shit up or whatever it is. What a brilliant business model, though. Give away money
the legend
to make more money.
He's a
And,
shit,
like,
man.
how the hell did no one else figure it out? And how are the Panthers not figuring it out?
Yeah, and more importantly, he's a North Carolina. He's a North Carolina guy.
Yeah,
and
he's a Greenville, North Carolina.
And he's
in my
making
fucking
videos.
town, dude.
He's making videos with the fucking Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Oh, I
What
know.
are we doing, man?
I
See,
know.
that's the type of shit that the Panthers, they need people like us in the organization to help them with this type of
I mean, Cam Newton, like when he was involved with those guys, on that one occasion where they were the world record. I mean, we were able to actually be involved. I mean, obviously we were a different team then, obviously, but that's that. I mean, it's not unheard of for us to be a part of that world, and I can't imagine it'd be difficult to get that feeling back. But I mean, to be fair, he's not going to throw his hat in the ring for a team that is the Panthers right now. We
missed the boat on that. You know, it was 2015. You grab a Mr. Beast, not
right
2024. All right, what's next on the show, Cody?
Yeah, man. Jumping back into it, we have some opening odds.
Oh, I wanted to ask him about this. I missed this one. Yeah. First, I think this is all. I don't know how ridiculous it is to bet on something like this. How do they? Basically, they're saying this is that the Panthers are going to try to lose by less than a touchdown. This is so early, right? They're just waiting. They set these odds and they just wait to see how the money moves. And from what I've understood is that Vegas just tries to keep it like 50-50 on each side, right? Is so like they're, if so much money is moving to one side, then they move the number to get more money to go to the other side and balance it out. I don't know how you forecast this. And I think our guest, Adam Chernoff, did talk about some of the things about some of the change that the Saints are going through. We only look at it from the Panthers side, but bringing an offensive coordinator, new scheme, the turmoil going there. I'm not sitting here jumping. This is a coin flip of a bet right here. I mean, and a lot of betting to me is just like that. You just pick one that you like.
I was talking to my brother today, and for those of you who have been following the show for a while, my brother's a Saints fan. So him and I were talking about quarterbacks and, who had higher expectations on them this year. Was it Derek Carr or Bryce Young? And I'm like,
oh, God.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's actually a good question, right? Because Derek Carr is the veteran. He's been the guy before. He was the guy for the Raiders, but he was also not very good last year for New Orleans relative to expectations. I know their fans were expecting more. And Saints fans, I'll tell you firsthand, they do not have a lot of love for their head coach. They wanted Allen fired before the year started.
Yeah.
So it really does make you wonder, what quarterback has more on the line? A young quarterback that had a terrible rookie season that they're looking to still see something from him, or the New Orleans Saints who just paid all this money to Derek Carr and really didn't live up to the billing.
I think I'm taking the Panthers here if I'm putting money on this, because I just think week one's a surprise week for us. It's an important week for us against the division rival. You got a couple of difficult games coming up. There's zero film on the Panthers, right? And I think it is not a trap game, but look, I'm not saying the Panthers are going to go out and win a lot early on in the season. In fact, I think it's going to take them a little while to start developing a continuity and getting together. But if I think there is a winnable week in the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I think that week one is an important one to do it. And, they're going to have that nobody believes in us. Everybody tells you stink mentality, and you're 0-0, right? You're undefeated, and let's go get a W. So if I was going to throw $10 on it, I would throw it on the Panthers here, but also biased as well. What's next, Cody?
Yeah, moving forward, we have, so this is sort of a fun one, and we've talked about this a little bit before. Pro Football Talk, I believe, they put this out, post June 1st cut and trade candidates. And as you all see, one Miles Sanders is on that list. And this is something that we wanted to talk about tonight. But before the show, like an hour before the show, Mike K responded to that graphic that we just showed and said, for what it's worth, the Panthers are on the hook for the entire physical salary and bonus this year. With that said, with Penny coming off of a forgettable year in Philly and Brooks coming off of an ACL, it would make sense to see if a motivated Sanders can bounce back unless you can find a trade partner, which he says is doubtful. I'm of that mindset. At this point, mentioning Brooks coming off the ACL tear, Rashad Penny has had an injury history other places before. You're already paying him. I really don't even think it's saving you that much. Like, you're going to have to eat some dead money, I believe, even if you did trade him, right? So to me, this is sort of like, I don't really see what the point is. I know fans don't give a shit about this dude, but Tony, at this point, if we can get some better O-line play and if he could be healthy like he was 2 years ago in Philly, I wouldn't mind having Miles Sanders around to help carry some of the load.
Yeah, financially, it doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, we all knew that when we signed the 3-year deal that, I think it was 3 or 4 year deal, $25 million guaranteed.
Right.
I think for me, again, when I come back to this, is that football fans in general, at least I used to see this so much in fantasy football. And now, I mean, obviously, as we're so in tune with Panther fans, is we have so much recency bias, right? And Miles Sanders stunk last year, and that he's the worst he was a punching bag for Panther fans. And yeah, he was bad. He wasn't good. But I also feel like there was just so many excuses made for every other single person on this team. So if you're going to just say, well, everybody was bad because it's like, I mean, you got to at least give a little bit of that to Miles Sanders. Look, is Miles Sanders obviously wasn't as great of a back as the Panthers wanted him to be, as I was hoping to be. Yeah, as I was hoping he was going to be. He might be just another guy, but I don't think he is as bad as he was last year. And and it was just schizophrenia for that Panthers offense, right? It was like, we're going to run the ball 40 times, then we're going to throw the ball 60 times the next game. Then we're going to try spread offense. Then we're going to try so imagine being a player who has no idea what's going on at anything. And there is a TikTok clip floating around I saw today on Twitter that was floating around of a guy making fun of the Panthers offense. And it was like Jonathan Mingo in motion. He runs to one side, then he turns around. And then as he's going past the quarterback to hike the ball and they're going to pitch it, it looked like Mingo is either the timing was off because Mingo was almost in the way of Bryce Young in the pitch, right? And then it was like, is Mingo supposed to be blocking? Is he supposed to be? It was like a disaster and a loss of 6 yards, right? So I just don't. I mean, look, I'm not saying Miles Sanders is going to go out there and be 1,000-yard rusher. I just don't know who would want him at this point. And somebody brought this up, CK. I saw this. Maybe it was on Reddit. I saw this. I don't know if it's further in the comments. Is there any chance Chuba Hubbard is kind of the odd guy out in this rotation?
No, I think Miles Sanders is 100% the guy who. Here's the issue. He's already going to get paid, and people are going to argue you can't not play him because of his paycheck. Well, the problem with that mindset is, do you play the best player available, or do you play the best person on your team, or do you pay the guy you're paying the most money to? But I can tell you this. Miles Sanders isn't going to be a difference maker if Chuba Hubbard is the better back. Now, if Miles Sanders has done things to be able to improve and all of that thing, I agree with the thing you said, Tony. I was 1,000% on board with. Everybody else got an excuse but Miles Sanders. And the reason I would say he didn't get the excuse is because he didn't, even when he had an opportunity, Chuba Hubbard still looked better than him and did more with the same offensive line.
He had one good run all season. Miles Sanders had like 140-yard run, and it was like when Thomas Brown took over as coordinator, and then he disappeared again. You're right. That's a great point. That is, I think, why people were so upset with Miles Sanders, is because when Chuba Hubbard was in there, it was noticeably better.
Right.
But they also, I feel like, are different types of backs, right? Chuba Hubbard is a straight line runner. It's just like go hit the hole fast and plow and hopefully break through. Miles Sanders is kind of, I feel like, a more finesse back who wants to not dance, but hide behind the guards a little bit, wait for the hole open, and then sneak out, leak out. Maybe it's different. We'll see.
I do feel like Chuba is a stronger runner in general.
Yeah, he's
like
younger, bigger.
Yeah, he's harder to bring down. And I think that if he does get that O-line play in front of him, I think that this running back by committee thing that we're trying to do, I think it's the right way to go. I think we can have a few backs that are successful in this offense. And listen, everybody knows I'm a big Chuba Hubbard fan. I've been one of his biggest defenders, man. Not saying that he's like this fantastic. Not saying that he's this fantastic fucking player, but every year he has gotten better and better and better. And now he's been one of our, if not the most dependable runner that we've had on our team in 2 or 3 years.
I'm with these nods in the chats. He says Chuba brings himself down. His balance is awful. Last year was the first time he was better at that. Right? Is the first couple of years. That's exactly right. He looked like a baby giraffe running out there. Is like he would just he was out over his skis, as they would say. But he did look better last year. He looked significantly better last year. All right, what's next?
Yep. Next on the show, this sort of leads into what we were just talking about a little bit. Which members of the Panthers 2021 draft class will get contract extensions? So right now, there are 5 players from that draft still on the team. That would be J.C. Horn, Terrace Marshall Jr., which is fucking wild, in my opinion.
I know.
Brady Christensen, one of my
He's
boys.
going to get cut. I bet you Marshall doesn't make the team.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it at this point. I thought you meant Christensen. No way.
Oh, no.
Right. Tommy Tremble and Chuba Hubbard. And, a few of these names are easy and a few of them require some discussion. What do you think are the easiest names on there? And really, I don't know. Maybe there are no easy names.
No, I would say none.
Say Horn.
I don't say any of them get a contract extension, and we can't talk about J.C. Horn for a whole nother year and a half.
Yeah. You got J.C. Horn's not going to get a contract extension with us if he doesn't play through this season healthy.
Well, he's already going to have the 5th-year option, though, so then we're going to play him the next year.
Yeah, you're going to play him the next year, but what I'm saying is that the first one to get the contract extension will not be him because you had the 5th year option.
Right. Yeah, he's definitely not going to be the first.
The person that I think is probably more, I think J.C. Horn, if he plays incredibly well this year, I think he is going to be potentially he could be the next one up. But there's so many ifs, and it's one that's just really difficult to predict. I think Brady Christensen's an interesting one because I feel like it's a weird scenario with him that he's still, even though he has played, significantly better than many of the other offensive linemen we've had, he still seems to be disrespected even just from this new coaching staff. Just the idea that they went and got these new guards. Ike Ekwonu is going to be clearly the left tackle. I don't think they're giving up on him at this point in time. And the fact that he's in rotations at that center position with Austin Corbett is it's just weird to me that he isn't getting more love for the consistency he has brought in that offensive line in a world of incredible inconsistency.
Well, I think when it comes to Brady Christensen, they looked at him and said he might have been the best player on a terrible line at times, but that doesn't mean he's a great offensive lineman.
Right.
Second, they probably said this is that the type of game we want to run, the type of scheme we want to run is we want bigger dudes at the guard position. And third is the reason that they're not maybe investing or counting on him is coming off an injury, right? Trying to figure out, you've got a first-round draft pick on the left side. You've got Taylor Motrin on the there you go, Panther Pickle. That's for you. I know. Taylor Moton on the right side, who has been incredibly consistent and available throughout and good and very good at times. So there's nowhere that he just looks like he should be the guy ahead of the dudes that are out there right now. The thing, though, that could benefit him in this situation is that if he gets an opportunity this year, the odds are, if I was going to bet on it, would be at a tackle position. Would be because Icky was playing terrible or gets hurt, or because Taylor Moton gets hurt. Like and then if he steps in and plays well, particularly at right guard, that would be interesting for the Carolina Panthers going forward. But imagine if he went and played tackle, which Cody believes that's his natural position at either one, that he's more inclined to be that person, then the odds are he's going to get signed by a different team.
Yeah, that's the problem. That would be the most Panther thing to possibly happen.
Oh, for sure. And listen, again, just like I'm a Chuba Hubbard defender, I've been one of the biggest Brady Christensen defenders. And listen, what I wouldn't count out, Tony and CK, is he might end up playing an important role on this team this year. So because Corbett wasn't there, I believe Christensen was playing some center at OTAs, which how wild would that be if Brady Christensen just ends up being this ultimate Swiss Army knife of an offensive player where it's like, maybe he's not great at any one position, but he has enough to be able to do a little bit of all of them well. And if he ends up playing center this year, or ends up playing some swing tackle, or steps up and is able to contribute in some meaningful way, even if it's like a 1 or 2 year deal, they might consider Christensen a player worth keeping around.
Yeah, not too expensive.
Yeah, just
available to sign, right?
Yeah.
So actually, if him getting time at center or being a good swing tackle might actually keep him in Carolina at an affordable price rather than some other way, right? All right. What were the other names?
Well, another real controversial thing too. Until Ikem Ekwonu proves himself better, I'm not sure that he's not the best left tackle on the team.
Oh, I know. I
know everybody likes
saying it forever, but
I've been saying it forever. I need to see it.
But now he's not, but now you don't have the idea of like, oh, well, this would upgrade our guard position.
Right.
Like you had before. Yeah. So it's almost like now, even if you're right in the end.
Yeah, he's in no man's land.
Yeah,
he's in no man's land. So, that sucks for him. Another player on that list who was really depending on a big time season this year is Tommy Tremble.
And if you go to Panthers.com, this is awesome. It's a dead time when the Panthers only have like 2 stories in a week on theirs, and they're all about Julius Peppers. It's a prove it year is the title of the story for from Cassidy Hill. We need to try to get her on. We haven't had a Panthers writer on, and she is the newest. I don't know. Haven't just been seeing her name pop around recently, but the title of this article is "It's a Prove It Year for Tommy Tremble, who could benefit from the new offense." Right, and this was from OTAs. It says he caught 1 touchdown, then 2, then 3. He was on fire today. One offensive coach said leaving practice of the tight end. Tommy Tremble says, "I want to be the guy who can do that can do everything, but the red zone, that's where you got to make the magic happens." And she goes on to write that Canales' staff hopes that Tremble can catch more fire, even though they did draft Jatavian Sanders in the 4th round. They believed. Well, look, it's Ian Thomas is still on this dang team. Tommy Tremble's still on the team. They didn't go out in free agent. They let go of Hayden Hurst. They didn't go out in free agency and do anything at tight end.
No.
So right now you have to believe, even if this 4th round pick is the future and turns out to be good, this is Tommy Tremble's year that the team is going to really give him a lot of responsibility.
Absolutely. I've been on record saying I think the tight end is going to be a real important part of this passing attack this year, just because it allows you to be so versatile on the line, running the football, throwing the football. But also, one of the things that doesn't get said enough, and Tony, you've actually been the biggest proponent of this, that tight ends, they take a while before they really start to turn on. And part of the reason is because of the blocking schemes. And whenever you're going from college to the NFL, it's such a different beast with the formations and the schemes. And
because the linebackers are as big and strong as they are. And then now they got to deal with defensive ends.
Right. So, but that in my mind says to me that I don't think necessarily Ja'Tavion Sanders is breathing down Tremble's neck right now.
I agree 100%.
Right. I think Tommy Tremble, and that's why they brought back Ian Thomas, for all this shit that Panther fans have said about Ian Thomas. The guy clearly wants to be here in Carolina, continues to come back on.
Somehow every coaching staff thinks he's great.
Tony, do you know who he reminds me of? Remember Ed Dixon? He reminds me of Ed Dixon.
Yeah.
He's never been a big time receiving.
Who was the other one that went to Jacksonville? He left here and went to Jacksonville. There was another tight end that we had, and he caught his first NFL touchdown last year or 2 years ago. The chat will get it, and it was just like he was only a blocker.
Yeah,
the chat will come through it. The chat will come through with it.
He was a part of the CJ Henderson trade, right?
No, that was the
Dan Arnold.
No, that was Dan Arnold.
Yeah,
he was a receiving tight end. It was, he played and he didn't play. Maybe he played fullback too. I'll see.
Which one are you talking about?
It's a tight end, former tight end.
Giovanni Ricci.
Manhurts.
Yeah.
Like that kind of
Chris
thing.
Manhurts. Yeah. Yeah, that's enough. But in my mind, Ian Thomas.
Chat's undefeated.
Dude, the chat's the fucking best. We have the best fans of any Panther pod. But to me, Ian Thomas is another one of those in that mold. He's a dependable blocker. Now numerous coaching staffs have wanted him to be a part of the team. And like I said, man, he keeps on taking pay cuts to be here. Now, granted, he might not have any other options.
Panthers soon to play.
Yeah, but hey, man, I really do think that they like what he brings in the blocking department. So I'm happy about what they're going to be able to do this year. It's a big year for Tommy Tremble. I am expecting big things of Tommy Tremble, and I don't want Panther fans to forget that at the end of the year last year, Tremble was straight up jumping over fools.
Multiple
times during the season.
Tommy Tremble has had potential and has shown some moments at times of, I think part of the problem is just everything is so bad. It's hard to find anything good in anybody. You look at these draft classes right here and nobody, you're not in love with any single damn player on the team. And so, to Tommy Tremble's defense, he's already been with basically two staffs now, a bunch of different offensive coordinators,
sort of three.
And so, the jury is still out on Tommy Tremble. And to be honest, he might be a player out of all these guys who has the best opportunity in signing in Carolina again, right? Absolutely. Brady Christensen. We've laid out some reasons why it could happen or how it could happen. J.C. Horn will continue to have not only this year being so important to it, but with that 5th year option, it doesn't make it expedient or necessary to accelerate that process.
Right.
Tommy Tremble is going to be getting the most play time out of all of these guys, probably. Chuba Hubbard, maybe, could be getting just as much. But I just don't think that the Panthers are going to be interested in, really, sinking any money in the running back position in the future at this point with Chuba Hubbard. Tommy Tremble on this list might have the best odds out of all of these players to continue or to find an extension with the Carolina Panthers. Hey, CK, warm up those pipes. We got a new member.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, Panthers fans from far and wide, we want to take a moment to recognize one special member of the C3 Superfan Club as they have just joined this elite group of human beings. I want to say, Eric Blair, welcome to the C3 Superfan Club. While we're at it, we haven't done this in a while, but I'm going to do it real quick without the bumper. I want to have every single person in the YouTube chat hit that like button. There's 39 thumbs up and close to 100 of you here. This is your subscriber shame.
Get those ass fingers of our producer.
Oh, bro, you already know I'm on it, man. Listen, if we're gonna have the best damn Panther fans in all of YouTube, I got to be the best damn Panther podcast producer in all of YouTube. That's
All
what
right.
we do, man. But hey, are these fans not incredible? Not only do we have more and more fans in the chat putting C3 in their name, like Sean Butler, we see you, bro. But we're getting brand new members. Interactions are doing great, man. We have the best fans of any pod, man. Hands
Speaking
down.
of fans, why don't we take some calls from the fans? The number's
Oh,
252-228-5098. You can be a part of the C3 Panthers podcast call and leave us a message. We got a few calls in the hole. Let's see what we got here tonight.
Oh, shit. Let's do it.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his nose? Who's that kid that can use one?
What's up, C3? What's up, C3? What's up, C3? It's Anthony.
What's
from
up, man?
Charlotte. Hope y'all boys are having a good Tuesday. Got back from Cincinnati on Monday. Been very absent from our community. Sorry about that, boys. I'll continue to strive to,
all good,
join
brother.
the C3 spaces, help out there, and give my opinions and make the conversations more interesting. Just kind of been taking a mental health break. From all this, preseason slander we're getting and these fans going crazy. So I just want to call in. My call is going to be pretty simple today. I read the title of the show tonight. Are the Panthers going to be a sneaky wild card contender team? My answer is I don't know. I think it's really going to depend, and I know that's very cliche to say, I don't know. But truly, we don't know. If you're a betting man right now, why would you bet them to make the playoffs? They haven't shown us the ability that they can make the playoffs in almost a decade. But hey, by mid-season, we'll really know how the season's going to go, in my opinion. It feels like, if we're 4-4, maybe we got a shot. If we're like 1-7, then we don't have a shot. But yeah, there's that. And then there's something else I want to bring up. A lot of people are discussing like Jonathan Mingo and Xavier Legette. Let me tell you one thing, all right? Jonathan Mingo, I didn't like the pick last year. I didn't think he was a second-round pick. I thought he was a late third-round pick. That's just my opinion, though. But he's getting a grace period, just like a Bryce Young is. If we're going to give Bryce Young a grace pass for the terrible, horrific situation he was in last year, then Mingo deserves a pass too. This is coming from a Bryce Young fan, and I'm sick of some of these Bryce Young fans, putting a lot of more of the blame on Jonathan Mingo. Yeah, Jonathan Mingo sucked last year. He didn't look like he could run routes. He didn't look like he knew how to run routes, and he didn't look like he knew what he was doing on the field half of the time. But he deserves a grace period as well, because clearly they didn't know how to utilize him either. This goes back to the whole issue I had with drafting Legette. I think Legette could be a great receiver, but now that you have two project receivers on your team, if Legette's really shining, there's really no point for Jonathan Mingo. Let's keep it a buck here, guys, because I feel like everything Xavier Legette can do good right now is stuff that Jonathan Mingo was supposed to do good out of college, and he hasn't shown that ability to. So I'll give him the grace period. But if Mingo and Bryce Young aren't good, hey, let's move on. But all I'm saying is, if we're going to move on from those guys, if they have bad seasons after this year, then you got to have a certain plan for the next quarterback and wide receiver that you draft or sign. Anthony from Charlotte, give me your thoughts. Keep pounding.
Great call, Anthony. I hope you enjoyed Cincinnati. Sounds like you did. Also, the Queen City, weirdly enough. Cincy cribs a lot of people. They also got Who Dey, which is like Who Dat for the. I don't know. That's another tangent. But listen, we've talked about this a little before, Tony, about when you're basically like when you look at Jonathan Mingo and the expectations that we had for him as a rookie, and then you look at what we said about Bryce Young and him as a rookie. Both of these guys were really bad. Yet a lot of people tend to be optimistic about Bryce and not so much about Jonathan Mingo. What is fair expectations? And I'll ask that to both of you because I'll be honest, I don't know what to expect from Jonathan Mingo, because you have to think Deontay Johnson's coming in. They're going to feed him the ball. They're going to get Xavier Legette catches, and you have Adam Thielen, who was the de facto, well, not even de facto, he was the number one wide receiver last year. It's like I don't necessarily know right now how Jonathan Mingo fits into this offense. So I can't necessarily say what is or isn't a fair expectation of him. I really don't know. I don't know what the coaching staff thinks about him. This is sort of up in the air to me. I don't really know.
So the statement of Mingo, like, why would we need him if Legette comes in and he dominates and he's incredible? It's just such an ironic statement coming from somebody who in Anthony has been pounding the table for T. Higgins to be coming to the Panthers Nation, and also coming from Cincinnati, just coming there from his trip to Cincinnati. They had two incredible wide receivers on rookie deals from, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And so the idea that you can't have that with Mingo and Legette is an interesting take. I mean, I understand it's hard to look at that and compare the two because neither of them have really played a high level in the NFL. Obviously, Legette hasn't had an opportunity to. But if there's a chance Mingo can turn out to be the guy that he was drafted to be, I think it's worthy of him getting an opportunity. I think Terrace Marshall has had plenty of opportunity, and it's just been kind of gone by the wayside. There's been nothing that we've gathered from it other than that he's just not good.
The expectations for Jonathan Mingo are zilch. Sorry, sure. Right? And not that that means that his NFL career is over or that even his career in Carolina is over. But right now he does. You ask, where does he fit in the offense? He doesn't. He fits onto the bench where he should have been from the beginning, right? And where he was ultimately, I think the Panthers drafted a lot for need last year, right? Is they went out there and they said, oh, well, we got this quarterback. Now we got to get a receiver. Now we got to do this. There's a run. Like, it was very reactionary in some ways, or at least making everything look good on paper. A lot of the reason that people hate Mingo, A, is because he stunk. B, because he stunk on a stunky team. And C, there were other wide receivers that were drafted after him that were significantly better, right? Or had more productive seasons. I think this is a great situation for Mingo, actually, right? I think Mingo gets to go in there, have zero pressure to play each week, know that he was a second-round draft pick, so he's got this year and next year to find a spot to show that he has the ability to continue to get better as a pro. And if right now he does it, in a lot of people, and I don't know enough about the X's and O's, but I continue to just seem to make sense to me when they talked about it, is that his skill set, the type of receiver that he is, lends towards him playing in the slot. And last year, Adam Thielen was the slot guy, and he's going to be the slot guy again this year, right now. So Mingo, the expectations for Mingo should be zero.
Yeah.
And the opportunity for Mingo to play is going to come when your number gets called, when somebody pulls up a little lame in a play and you got to go in there, when somebody maybe is dealing with a hammy or something, or maybe Adam Thielen's old or something, or maybe even if everything goes to plan and all of those guys somehow stay healthy, you find a way to learn how to play special teams. This is how players in the pros who are not stars right out the gate have to win, have to make it. They have to find a way to improve year to year noticeably to the coaching staff in the meetings, in the weight room. And then when their number is called, they have to go out there and do something about it, i.e. the best at this, Tamir freaking Bird.
Oh, here we go. Dude.
No, but is whether you don't like it or not, is that on a very, very small, these guys who are, and that he was an undrafted guy, right? But they have such a small window to make you like them. And so while Mingo is going to have a lot longer leash than an undrafted player would, But now what it's going to come down to him is improving as a pro in training, in the meetings, and all of that. He's going to have to be well coached, and he's going to have to be liked by the coach. He's going to have to suck up and do everything, carry people's pads and type stuff. When his number does get called, which it inevitably will have to get called at some point, he's got to do something if the ball gets to him. He can't screw it up. He just doesn't have a lot of opportunity for screw up. And really, and honestly, my advice to a guy like Mingo, even though you were a second round pick, right now it doesn't look like you're a star, bro. So you better find a way to freaking learn how to run downfield and block on special teams. There are a lot of guys who have made a living in the NFL by just being special team players. And you have to make this team believe to you that you're not just a wide receiver they got to put on the roster and sit on the bench, but some other way that you can contribute to the team until you are a wide receiver.
I think it's worth noting that the reason Mingo is going to have a longer leash is a discussion that they were having. I believe it might have been Tom Pelissero talking about the devaluation of the wide receiver market potentially coming down the pipeline, meaning that there's a path to the things that are happening to the running back position and happening to the wide receiver position. And you're seeing that happen in a multitude of different ways. You're seeing it happen with teams like Kansas City, who are getting rid of high dollar wide receivers like Tyreek Hill and still finding a way to succeed because they have their main guy at quarterback. You're seeing that happen in Buffalo. You're seeing that happen in a lot of these places. Even if you look at Cincinnati with T. Higgins' situation, they're not willing to pay him the money that he's wanting to be on that team. I think that we're going to see teams take a longer look at these guys that are wide receivers on rookie contracts that are cheaper in an effort to try to build a team around a quarterback that's going to end up taking the majority of your salary cap. The Panthers are not quite to the point where they're going to have to pay Bryce Young, but they have to be forward looking. And instead of paying a wide receiver now that they're going to have to then find a way to maintain, some sort of value with, I think they're going to give these younger guys an opportunity. And then that way they can build their team around, cheap wide receiving core. I mean, when you look at what we have, our highest paid wide receiver is, at this point in time, Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
And so
that's where Mingo is going to find his role, is when Adam Thielen's gone. That's what he's going to step into those shoes.
Right. And so, I mean, I think that we've just got to keep that in mind, understanding that Mingo maybe didn't show us what we needed to see last year in a dysfunctional offense in many ways. I think we all wish we would have seen a spark. We didn't see a spark. We didn't even see like anybody trying to light tender. Right. It was just a guy running routes that you could say was some of the laziest routes that we've seen anybody try to run. I'm hoping that under new leadership, an offensive coordinator that was in charge of the wide receivers in Tampa can get some things out of these guys, because there's a lot of potential. When you look at this wide receiving core, there's a tremendous amount of potential. We just need guys that can connect the dots.
Yeah.
That's it.
He's going to have to make the most of every reception.
Yeah.
Of every time that he's targeted, because again, like, he's got other players that are going to be higher up on the list to get the ball more so than him. So even if he gets, 2 or 3 catches here and there, he's got to make the most of them, man.
He's got to catch it. He's got to look good doing it. He's got to do everything right.
And you know what? You already mentioned it before too. Blocking. If he can prove as a valuable member in the run game,
which he wasn't last
blocking,
year.
He not at all was a valuable member in the run. But if he is able to do that, as counterintuitive as it seems, because he's not receiving the ball, if he's able to help them run the ball better, I guarantee you they will put him out on the field, and that will make him a threat to actually receive the ball.
All right. Let's go to the next call.
Yo, my C3 family. The great Tony Dunn.
What up, brother?
The homie Cody Lack. The CK Code Dizzle. Shut the hell up, Panther. Pickle that effing guy, muscle marinara, Diesel, Skills, Colby, Jacob, the whole Legion family, even the Mr. Stratton. I'm on a day of reflection and thankful. Had a birthday Sunday. Hit that
Happy
44.
birthday, brother.
And was just sitting back on the pasture. And, you know, we had this topic somewhat Friday on the Friday free fall. And I guess as I sat back and reflected and looked at everything, one, we didn't have a setup, a competent offense, even a competent coaching staff that worked together to evaluate Bryce. I think we have that now. We added 650 pounds to that interior offensive line and expecting better offensive line play. Sounds good. We got Miles Sanders with a point to prove after an injury-ridden and low-production season last year. Chuba Hubbard trying to prove a point that he deserves a bag. Deontay Johnson trying to prove that he can be a one receiver. Xavier Leggett trying to show that it wasn't a mistake to go grab him. Defensive players and other players on this team who are trying to, that know if it doesn't work out here, this might be their last shot.
Mm-hmm.
And you got a motivator, a leader of dogs like Dave Canellis to try to harness that energy and lead it in a positive direction. Can it be sneaky? Yes. Will it be sneaky? Only time will tell. But the thing was, you got to remember, a lot of them games last year, we were in them and probably could have won if we would have had even remotely any kind of offensive production. And that was even with us not being able to stop the run. Now, once again, I love every single one of y'all, and we're going to be looking for a better season than last year. I know the bar ain't set high, but we're going to do what we always do. And what is that? Keep pounding.
Thank you, man. Always a breath of fresh air in the calls, and a lot of guys on this team with a lot to not only prove, but a lot at stake. We'll go to the next call. The number's 252-228-5098.
Hey, everybody. It's John B. Jenkins, your European correspondent for the Wrocław Panthers.
And their logo is like,
let me start off by saying that, first and foremost, I am a Carolina Panthers fan. I have been since the inception, not inception. Gosh, I remember we had just moved up to Charlotte. I was in 7th grade, and my birthday is on October 27th, and the team was awarded on the 26th, and my dad went and got me a T-shirt, and I've been a fan ever since. That being said, I am here to report to you on how our Wrocław Panthers did. That is the Wrocław Panthers, not the Wrocław Panthers that I was calling them. I have since learned how to pronounce the town's name. So it's spelled W-R-O-C-L-A-W, but the W's are like a V. So it's Wrocław. Wrocław Panthers.
Started out 14, down 14 points in the last.
The Berlin Thunder 49-39 in front of 15,000 fans at the Tarzinski Stadium in Poland.
Overcame a 14-point deficit in the beginning of the game.
We've got the David Brzezowski, number 22 guy I was telling you about earlier, and then new kid on the block for the team, at least, Kennedy Adams, number 21. Brzezowski's more of our power back. Kennedy Adams is more of a kind of a wide receiving option. He scored a lot of touchdowns. I think he had a 75-yard touchdown on one play. Our linebacker, number 49, A.J. Wentland, who I was telling you about last week, he scored an interception return for a touchdown that reminded me of that Thanksgiving game when Luke intercepted Romo twice in a row. Just watching the highlights, I was like, oh my God, that's like watching Luke. Anyway, next week, the Panthers will face off against the Stuttgart Surge, who were one of the teams in the championship game last year. So that's going to be a tough match. But the fact that the the fact that they put up 49 points on the Thunder, who are no slouches themselves. I mean, it wasn't a defensive showing in the least bit, but both of those teams slugging it out. I think we've got a good chance against the Stuttgart Surge next week. So anyway, go Carolina Panthers, go Wroclaw Panthers, or Wroclaw Panthers.
Go Wroclaw.
Keep pounding Carolina, keep pounding Wroclaw, and keep pounding C3 Panthers Podcast.
Hämmere weiter.
Great call.
Hämmere weiter.
I mean, listen, because of him, I've been sort of, keeping a loose look on it.
When he sends me stuff, I watch it.
I do. Yeah. Like I said, he posts stuff on Twitter, and I've been checking him out. I love it, man. Again, it's like building that international audience for Panthers and Panther fans. It's awesome.
Let me just say this: here's a moment to gloat about our fans. Is when I got my job teaching full time at Pitt 14 years ago. I remember sitting in the office with my department chair, who was on the back end of his career, getting ready for retirement, right? Like he's a couple years out the door of retirement. And he said, man, I've come up with all the ideas I've got. I've used them all, right? I've been in this chair for the last 20 years, this one. I've been teaching, for 30 years. It's time for y'all to come up with the ideas, right? And not that I'm out of ideas for this show and things like this, but just getting up here every Tuesday night, interacting, doing the Friday, Cody doing the Friday free for all. The other time we put in for the post, it's like sometimes I'm just like, I don't want to think and come up with something new. Yeah. But just when I'm getting that, we've got a wonderful group of fans who have stepped in and brought so much, not only creativity, but energy to the podcast.
Yeah.
So from John Jenkins with, which I love this European report in the off season. I mean, if you guys don't like it, then just shush.
Yeah. Too bad.
Right? I mean, look, it's the off season and we're sitting here, we're just having fun. So I love that angle. I love some of the callers and some of the creativity they've come up with from I love some of the fake calls, the inter-caller banter. But look at what all the hard work that these guys are putting in on the spaces nonstop, right? And I want to shout out Tar Heel Iyer, who contacted me today. And he's one of by the way, we have a Discord. Again, I can only keep up with so much stuff. So I created the Discord. We tried to fool around with it. And I look at it sometimes when I get notifications. But every platform where you're at, we want to have a presence. So if anybody wants to take over the Facebook, which I hate, hey, I'm ready to give it to you. If you can do anything with that, because all I do is post a live video up there. I just hate the platform.
Well, we got a message about doing more monetizing stuff.
Well, but I want to give Tar Heel Iyer some credit. Yeah. He reached out to me because we got a porn bot dropping, stuff in the Discord. And he said, hey, if you want to give me, because he's a moderator, access to delete these posts, I'll be happy to do it. I was like, please.
Oh, here he is. That's Sean Butler in the chat. He says, I'm Tar Heel Iyer.
Oh, perfect. And not only did he walk me through how to actually because I was like, man, I'm sitting here on the app. I think I'm going to have to get on the desktop. He's like, dude, anyway, that presence to me is the coolest thing, right? And so thank you guys for John Jenkins, to Sean Butler, to Diesel Skills, to D, to all the people, Pickle, Colby, that are in the spaces. Any creative additions, this is our podcast. It's not my, it's like I think of it as like my podcast and our podcast is this because I've invested so much in my
the fans by the fans.
But y'all, whatever you want to do, C3 U porn page. Hey, white chocolate, make it happen.
Depends on who's on it. Okay. Maybe not everyone should be a part of that.
Yeah.
But dude, listen,
Right now, I don't think anybody on this panel is going to be the poster child of the C3 YouPorn page.
dude, look, let me tell you, man. Dude, all the boys in the chat, man. My man D's Ill Skills, Jake the Snake, White Chocolate Espresso. Like, hey, man, especially at times like this when there really isn't shit to talk about, you guys give us the extra juice and effort to dig deep and find all the content and make the best show possible, man. We want to continue to build this community and make a community where Panther fans feel like their opinion and their voices can be heard. That's what we're here for, man. And I think we're doing okay, Tony.
Yeah, man, we're having fun. Let's go to the next call.
What's up, C3? This is Lucas, the Forest City Kitty.
What up, Lucas?
I wanted to talk to you. I seen something on Facebook. It was a list of all the NFL teams' GOATs. And when I looked at the Panthers, it said that Cam Newton was our GOAT. I don't really agree with that. I think that Julius Peppers is our GOAT, and I think he's head and shoulders way above all the rest of our players. I think that is our guy. I'm curious what y'all thought. Y'all think Cam Newton is our guy, or Julius Peppers, or is it another person like Steve Smith or Luke Kuechly? Curious what you guys think. Keep pounding and go Tigers.
Keep pounding, go Tigers. Look, I feel like depending on what Panther fan you're asking, you'll get a very different answer. So I know me and Tony, like Tony would agree with you, buddy.
Well,
Julius Peppers is his.
That. I mean, I have some caveats of it's the team's greatest player or who is the greatest player that ever played for your team. So go ahead.
But no, I mean, so for example, I've told y'all this before. I'm not a fan of the Carolina Panthers if it's not for Cam Newton.
Right.
Cam Newton started my fandom. That's where I joined this team. So for me, it's Cam Newton. But I can understand how if you grew up in some of your earliest memories of the Panthers were watching Steve Smith just go fucking bananas on defensive backs, you would say Steve. Or if you're like Tony and you grew up in like what
well, Julius Peppers was my Cam Newton.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He was the guy that made you fall in love with this team. So I think it's different to everyone, but I feel like none of them are wrong answers. I don't feel like anyone would say that you're wrong if you said Luke Kuechly was the best Carolina Panther player ever. So it's subjective. We've had a few great ones, but I'm of the mindset that no other player has ever put Carolina on the map like Cam Newton did.
CK, you go.
This is so much harder to be able to do in today's world. I mean, we just don't have a lot. I mean, you're going to break it down to three players, and it's Cam Newton, Steve Smith, or Luke. And I think you have to go Cam Newton, even though it wasn't long as far as like his career with the Panthers in comparison to Steve Smith. He was considered the greatest player in the NFL at one point, like the greatest player in the entire NFL.
Quarterback heavy award.
Sure, but I mean, that's voted on by other players. It might be, it might be favoring the quarterback, but that's also the hardest position to play. And so I get the argument that Julius Peppers would be in that position, or even Steve Smith would be in that position. But I think that Cam Newton would be there just because he broke records, and the other two were on pace to break records, but they didn't break records. Cam Newton broke records.
Yeah, but Cam Newton is not a Hall of Famer.
I disagree, and I think a lot of people would disagree with you.
He's borderline Hall of Famer. He's not. I mean, there could be some arguments because some of the records he's at, but it's not. Okay, continue. I'll let you finish.
No. I mean, that's basically the position I hold, is that I think that he is largely considered, and I don't know that there's many people that would be even on the list of people that would be on that, considered better than Cam Newton.
Steve Smith should have been a first ballot, but he just was in a tough class. All right, so here's my answer to this: is I think that Steve Smith is the greatest Panther of all time. right, is not like his entire career was here, and he was really freaking he's a Hall of Fame wide receiver.
Right.
I think that Cam Newton is the Carolina's own first and only superstar.
Right.
Right. Like is like a guy who is known by people who don't know anything about the team. Right. Like, I mean, Steve Smith is not walking in Ohio and people are like, oh, there's Steve Smith. They're going, oh, shit, that's Cam Newton. And Cam Newton. Right. So I think Cam is the greatest star Carolina's ever had. I think that, and this is hard, and I'm just I want to be nice to Luke Kuechly because I think I saw some special stuff. I think Julius Peppers had the greatest career out of any of these guys these players, right? I mean, that's clear. It's like he was first ballot, nobody, I mean, walked into the Hall of Fame. They already had, was ready. And he was arguably one of the greatest at he's really good at his position. I think Luke might be the greatest at his position. But the problem is it's just like longevity. It's like the two things that are fighting against between Cam Newton.
But that's
even more so Cam Newton is longevity of career. Luke Kuechly had 8 years where he's the best linebacker in the league.
But here's my question. Who had a bigger impact on the Carolina Panthers in their career with us? And I don't think you can make an argument that it was anybody other than Cam Newton.
It's
okay.
Okay. I'll just let you have that.
Like, the reason I say that,
I think that's an unfair thing.
No,
because of the quarterback position by nature.
Sure.
Right. Like you could be the world's greatest linebacker.
Right.
And in the history of the world, and you could be like the 10th best quarterback in the history of the world and have a greater impact on the team.
Right. But that's what I mean but we're not your question isn't who is the greatest defensive end on the Carolina Panthers. It was who is the greatest player.
Greatest of all time.
Yeah, of all time. I mean, of all. And the reason that I think Julius Peppers is going to have to be eliminated from that is the majority of his career was spent with other teams.
Yeah, well, half. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a fair point, right? That's why I'll accept any argument against Julius because he didn't do a lot of it with the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, him walking away from the team was always.
Enough of that nonsense.
But okay, you're gonna say
it's worthy of a discussion. Nothing else.
Maybe he's just the smartest motherfucker in the group.
Maybe so, but he also went to the Bears, and the Bears never did shit.
Well, no, the Bears did have one of the top defenses in the world at that time.
Yeah, but they never had the quarterback. They never had the offense.
They did make it to the playoffs with him. They made it to the NFC Championship. They right, I think at one point with Rex Grossman.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but it's also the fact that the Carolina Panthers offered him a contract.
I know.
They were going to make him.
He's like, fuck it. He saw the writing on the wall. He was like, Jim Estes called him Judas Peppers. That's funny. That's funny from a Julius Peppers lover.
It is a great question and conversation to be had, though, man. Because again, I do agree with you. Luke might have been the best player at his position that the Panthers have ever had.
Like he's better at line. He was better at linebacker than Cam was at quarterback.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's like Cam was not the greatest quarterback in any conversation in the history of the league. Not that he didn't have a crazy, he wasn't a great quarterback. Right. But you're just not going to say this. I don't even care if you take the 2015 season, you extrapolated it. It's this. It's like Tom Brady. It's this guy. You know what I'm saying? It's never, he's not even. Luke Kuechly honestly he was the best in the league at his position.
Yeah. Right. But I do
think the Seattle guy was real good. Bobby Wagner. Yeah.
But I do also think it's fair to say that while Luke was the prototype of what you want from that position, Cam Newton was something that wasn't truly ever seen before like that.
Oh, yeah.
That position.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
Right. So his combination of both of those things and the personality and the quarterback. But no, I agree with you, man. And I think that Luke Kuechly is also a combination of all the best things of the technical skill. Yeah. He's humble, but he also has a never-ending motor. And a lot of people also didn't feel that about Julius Peppers, that he would sometimes take plays off.
That's not those are non-football people. Right. And maybe
a bunch of Panther fans held that opinion.
Sour grapes, dude. They had sour grapes. But defensive end is you play a chess against these guys. You don't just bull rush every play. You have to conserve. You don't be fourth in the history of football in NFL sacks and give it half effort. I'm sorry. It's impossible.
Or maybe he was capable of giving more.
Even if he gave three, if he gave even more, he would be by far the greatest of.
But doesn't it also lead to the effect where he wanted to move on from Carolina?
Because the team was a fucking disaster.
So maybe there were plays
and he had never been out of North Carolina. But I think too is and I don't know. We'd have to ask a Browns fan about this. But a lot of people say, or I've heard, maybe when I say a lot of people, I've read it twice, that Myles Garrett runs out of gas in the fourth quarter because he is going 1,000% on every bull rush in the first three quarters. So there is a mental chess game that you play against offensive linemen where you set them up with speed, then you slow. These guys are so good. They're looking 3 plays down the road. They're not just looking at one play. How do I beat this guy on this play? They're thinking, all right, I'm going to keep baiting him on the outside, and then I'm going to do this. So I just feel like that is a bullshit thing to say to a Hall of Fame player that he was lazy and took plays off. Okay. I think it's just something fans say because they had sour grapes because Julius left.
Or you're just a super fan.
Okay. All right, we'll take another call.
Yeah, that's okay.
Both can be true.
Sure.
Gentlemen, what are your thoughts on now that the NIL or college football, basically you're paying athletes to play college football, and with transfer portal, and you could have youngsters playing college football for 7 years, for 6 or 7 years now. It's crazy. So as we all know, if you're looking for young men playing professional football or professional basketball or of whatever sport, you see all the problems the pros have with drugs, hookers, guns, getting in trouble at nightclubs or of whatever. Well, as you can imagine, you're having teenagers or 21-year-olds in college of doing this and getting this kind of money and flooded with money, because now you're actually seeing 18-year-olds just leaving high school wearing gold chains and coming out there and flaunting their wealth and all that and getting into trouble already. So what do you think of impact it's going to have on the fan bases of these major colleges? You talk about these multi-generational fans, like for Georgia, for Clemson, for Texas, for UCLA, USC, for Alabama, for Oklahoma, Nebraska, for all of these big programs on here too. What do you think it's going to do to college football with all this money and young people getting paid? And I guess, is it even worth it to keep up the pretense of having student athletes? So what are your thoughts on this? Pontificate, gentlemen.
Two things to think about this. What I think I saw, I just saw a rule that somebody now the universities can direct pay players, and I don't know if it's in every conference or whatever. What is it called?
Yeah, every conference.
Yeah. So I don't know. To be honest, I'm surprised it hasn't been worse than it is right now in the first 2 years of this. Right. Yeah. And what I mean by that is just I'm surprised we're not hearing stories of guys renting a house, hiring 20 porn star, just more off, because the NIL has been in effect for 2 years. And while the money is only going to get bigger and differently distributed, there's been real money out there. Honestly, if I was an 18-year-old kid and you gave me $600,000 or $100,000, I'm making some foolish ass decisions. So I'm really, honestly, incredibly surprised we haven't heard more horror stories.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah,
they're just
but
not coming out
yeah,
yet.
go ahead, Steve.
I was
Well,
saying
yeah,
they're just not
true.
coming out.
Yeah, we haven't heard about them yet. They're sweeping them under the rug, maybe, but it feels like, man, there's a lot of people that would want to be talking about that.
Well, we also know that they've been doing this forever anyway. I mean, players have been getting paid under the table forever. But how I have heard this said to me is that this is them getting ahead of the curve. Just like they ruled that it was, it was basically against the law for them to prevent players from collecting name, image, and likeness. Well, yeah, essentially, again, I do not know all the ins and outs, but this is them getting ahead of it instead of it being ruled on way later down the road, and then they have to pay all this extra money.
Well,
So
I don't even know if they're getting ahead of it, dude, because it took the damn Supreme Court ruling on it.
Well, right, but that's what I'm saying, that eventually that's where it was going to lead to.
Well, it did. It went all the way to the Supreme Court.
Right, but saying even the colleges not paying their players directly, that this is them getting ahead of that as well. And to the caller's question, I think the blue blood schools, they're always going to be ahead of everyone. Because one, they have all the boosters that are going to be able to pour an untold amount of money into the program. Then on top of that, when you have these college towns where the center of the town is based around football, so for example, Tuscaloosa, Alabama, where football is life there, you have businesses that are literally built and thrive around that campus. They're all going to be able to pitch in more and more money to bring those players to that school. So what I think the player is getting at, and what a lot of coaches, including my college coach, Dabo Sweeney of my Clemson Tigers, is that now it's really not college football anymore. It's just like a minor league professional football team. And that's the way
that's the real truth of the matter is.
My
And that's
final
where
thing
we're good. Go ahead.
Is that you're no longer, the coaches are no longer recruiting anymore. Like Nick Saban talked about this. When you're going in to meet with a player, instead of, oh, well, what can Alabama do for you? What kind of degree? What kind of player we're looking to have? One of the first things that they ask, how much money are you going to be giving me? How much money are you going to provide to me? So in that way, you still have the rich getting richer and the poor kind of just fighting for the leftover table scraps.
Well, and so I'm going to address a couple of things. One is that it was unconstitutional for these guys not to be collecting money. And my real example for this is not just because the colleges are making billions and they're not getting a piece of it. The analogy that I use to people is this: if you're a music student on a music scholarship to a college, right? And you get a full ride and you go play a gig on the weekend at the local bar, you don't lose your scholarship. Right? Is like in that there was no conflict of interest there. Right. So that is right away, you can see where the unconstitutionality of it is. The second thing is to go to your point, Cody, is like to say that it's not college athletics. It hasn't been college athletics for a long time. Right? Is like this whole old hat idea of, well, you're getting an education is all bullshit. That's like a 1960s. We don't watch, is like the students are the ones there watching the game and, your grandpa's there. That's not how it is. If you think about this, is that it's hard to go to college full-time and work a full-time job. Yeah. These kids are going to college full-time and doing more than what is a full-time job. There's no way that, and I'm not saying that every education or every degree that a college football player has gotten is fraudulent, right? I'm sure there are examples of people that have found a way to do it the right way, right? And got something out of it. But let's not act like these mugs are getting the education is what the college is focusing on or what they're focusing on.
No.
The next part, though, is I disagree a little bit about your statement about the local businesses in college towns that can push this. The reason I say this is because I thought originally when NIL came out, I live in a college town that has a pretty solid football history. While haven't been good for the last 6 or 8 years, we have a very respectable football community. We're known for putting on, like, I mean, we have big turnout. We used to, right? Like, but the thing is the players aren't getting paid from like the local car dealership. They're not going to the local car dealership and signing hats and saying, come out on a Saturday. What they have done is they've created what they call this in here at ECU called the Boneyard Fund, where where boosters or anybody contributed ultimately to a hedge fund that they manage, right? So they try to raise like $500 million and then invest that money to grow it even more and then pay these players with it. So it's not this like, oh, he's coming on the radio and then like it's just
well, but also think
much
about
bigger than that, right? And then my last point though to this, and this is where ECU can't win in this.
True.
Is that our college is what I would call a middle class college, right? It's like working people. Like people who go to ECU are either from up north because it's cheap in a party school, and we're known. We got 4 to 1 girls. It's like the best, but it's not. Basically, outside of a couple of programs, our people don't go on to make giant money. What the colleges that will win in this are the ones who have a base that then goes on to be millionaires and multi-millionaires, because then they can write a booster check that's not $10,000, but they'll be like, oh, I'll give you $150,000 today for this, right? So these colleges that then which basically are rich people colleges, right? People who are rich that went there, who are going to be rich when they leave and make even more money and more money. They're going to win from that. And then the last point to this is to the caller is, how is this going to change football? I think it's going to change it as in people have less allegiance to a college and more allegiance to a player. I think kind of the days of just being like, oh, I cheer for Georgia, but I didn't go to Georgia, and I just love Georgia, and I like all of this. I think those days of that loyalty to the college are going to diminish each year. Go ahead, cover me. My daughter wants to ask me.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I would just, again, this is sort of, well, go ahead, CK. I'll wait till Tony gets back.
No, you're fine. I mean, the argument that I would have is that's pretty much what the NFL is, and that's kind of what in my opinion, that's kind of what fantasy did to the NFL, is it made you chase players as opposed to teams. So, I mean, I don't really see that much of a divergence from that. The issue you will run into if that does become a reality where it becomes more about the player as opposed to the team is those incredible cultures that you see colleges that they've created. If those go away, that's just going to be such a tragedy. Those cultures and the way that they have those fan bases set up, those are going to be hard to lose out on. I mean, because there's just an incredible level of excitement when you watch game day and you see these college campuses just coming out in masses to show support for their team and all of these incredible it's inspiring to see that. And quite honestly, I think there's a lot of teams that can look at that and say, I wish we had that. And the Panthers probably being one of them at this point in time. It's just one of those things. It would be a really sad day when that isn't the case anymore.
And I hope that doesn't happen, but I wanted to answer to Tony. To me, it's not just like the one-off, ad spots that you would do on a radio for like a local restaurant or whatever. So like imagine you're in Austin, Texas, where the Longhorns play, and you're a star wide receiver or a star quarterback or whatever. You know how many car dealerships, like Mercedes dealerships, would put you in the commercials to sell their, cars, sell all kinds of shit. And again, whenever you have college towns that are so big like that, inevitably people end up moving to that town and to that area.
But those aren't college towns. Those are cities that have colleges.
Right, but a lot of those colleges that are those bigger name blue blood colleges, they're going to be able to attract those types of players.
Who are they?
because of the business infrastructure that exists around the towns and the communities of those college. They are bigger markets. It's just like
Who are they? But like it's it's USC, not South Carolina, Kev. It is University of Southern California.
Yep. So
it is okay. Give us Texas because of all the oil money that's there.
Okay,
but even like maybe you could say Ohio State because it's but like
Ohio State, Michigan.
There's only
Florida.
like 4 of those schools.
No,
no.
You're wrong.
Cities that
Texas
have that much money.
No, Texas A&M, Auburn. I would say Florida. I would say Michigan.
Where is Florida at? Tallahassee?
I'll give you another one. Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I mean, it can.
Where they are. Virginia Tech is in fucking what?
Florida.
They don't got any money there, do they?
The towns that they're in. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not. Okay. I would be willing to agree with CK, but also like Florida State University, Miami. I mean, again, you have Georgia. There are schools that could legit do this. Whereas what you're saying, ECU, that's never going to be the case for them. That's never going to be the case for
Georgia hit
Carolina.
The sweet spot, to be honest, right? And I don't think Georgia might have the staying power to do this forever. And that is one, they have a history, right? They've won a national championship. They had Herschel Walker. They're a big football place. The environment is insane. They are the flagship university of their state, but at the same time, Georgia Tech is the people that make the money, the ones that come out of there.
They're in Atlanta,
and they were winning at the right time. NIL came in, so I just don't know. To me, it just looks like this: is who are your alumni, and how much money do they make? Because if your alumni go on to make $150,000 versus $550,000, there's just a difference, right? On average. And I think that's why USC is the one that has all the power, because they got all the stars, they got the Hollywood, there's
a few different places, man. Again, you'd be surprised how much business these college cities / towns do.
I know, but what you're talking about too requires a city that has an economy that benefits from the college but isn't driven by the college.
Right,
and
also,
Athens is ECU, and you know what I mean, like Clemson is. These places are, and the reason, and first of all, Alabama was nothing until they had a rich, long history a long time ago, but they went through the crapper for a long time.
Yeah.
And what Saban was able to do was to recruit, and everybody knew. Now, it's not that he couldn't recruit now. It's just now he can't keep those players on the bench anymore.
Yeah. And also
nobody's going to be like, oh, I'm the third best quarterback on this. But no, they're like, I'm leaving.
But it's like I was saying to CK, Nick Saban has audibly said this out loud. Now you're going into these recruits' house, and instead of talking about the normal things about what you would bring to the team, what the college would provide to you as a man outside of football, one of the first things that you have to address is how much money you would be able to pay them. So essentially, it's not like recruiting anymore; it's college free agency.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
It is, and that's really the only reason it doesn't bother me more is
it's inevitable.
The one thing I just kind of want, and I don't know how to do it, is it feels to me that we should take college football at the minimum, right? I think maybe the other sports have a reason to stay, but I think it should almost just be able to keep the college name, but not be ultimately affiliated with the college. Right, like a completely, because it is right now is a lot of the budgets of these things, they're not paid by the taxpayer, they're paid by different things. They're ultimately, and have been for a long time, even before the NIL, semi-pro sports.
Yeah,
and it almost just feels like this is let Alabama still play at Alabama, but let's make them a business.
But also keep in mind that so many of these college football stadiums hold 100,000 people. Like college football, in more ways than just the NFL, is more of an
It's
institution
bananas.
than professional football. So when you have all these changes,
Yeah, but there's
to
also
these cultures that were around for hundreds of years.
Yeah, I mean, think of
football,
Ohio State. Think
yeah,
of
man,
Michigan.
It's a
Michigan's the
different thing
biggest
now
out of
when you're
all of
talking
them.
about it, because people are feeling like their traditions, that this is going to ruin everything, that it's going to ruin recruiting in college football. And a lot of coaches have been saying this for a while, but we'll see.
I think we're going to see and look is, I mean, I can divert this to a different, and we're not going to go down this hill, but I basically as someone who is works in higher education myself, I'm ultimately, and I haven't, if I was going to go get my PhD, I'd probably write it on something like this, is like the collapse of university systems on the horizon. And I don't mean like is that colleges are going to go away. I think distance education ultimately is forced a consolidation of things, like as prices for universities have gone up so much, people are making. And I feel like this is that, in the parallel I want to make to NIL is that ultimately I think we're going to see a consolidation over the next 20 years of college football. And that is, there will be some of these schools that'll be able to hang on to their programs.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be some of the schools kind of like ECU, who are in these other conferences that make money, right? That there is a real following and desire. I think they're ultimately going to have to break off into their own league. And break away, right? Because there's no it's like this is you're almost going to have, and look, the SEC is working towards this.
Yeah,
right?
But did you think that it's going to be a scenario where okay, don't go to the NFL, just stay here at Alabama, and we're going to keep on paying you? Because then I
wouldn't doubt that one bit.
But I'll tell you why I would. The NFL will not let that happen, because college football is literally how the NFL replenishes its talent.
Sure. No, I don't think they're going to be able to go forever, right? I just don't think that they're going to make it a league that is semi-pro to where you could be like a lifelong minor leaguer, right? But I do think I think if I'm a player and I'm one of the top players in college football, I might consider what was the rush for some of these kids to go to the NFL when they were 20 and 21? It was just because they were going to be a top draft pick. Now, I mean, the top draft pick and the money was the incentive. And now if you're getting paid equivalent, in some ways, I'm hoping that it might help the players come in more. They don't come in too young. They come in with
everything that you just said makes my stomach turn. I want nothing of what you just said, because to me,
get ready for it.
Yeah, and maybe so, but to me, it just upsets the balance of normalcy in both college football and professional football.
Well, the pros, this is the NFL's fault for not making their own developmental league.
But they're kind of trying to now.
Oh, they've always fought this shit. They have been terrible at this.
But they're kind of trying to now with the PFL, the
Oh, the Euro. Yeah.
No, the one that the Rock.
But Matt Corral. All that shit is not owned. The Carolina Panthers need a minor league team. Every professional team should have a minor league roster.
But where?
What do you mean where?
Where would they play? What league would
Who
they
cares?
be in?
It's just like this.
No,
is in minor league baseball. In minor league baseball, they have whatever. Charleston is the affiliate of the freaking
right. But Tony, there's a minor league. So there are teams that are in conferences that are in divisions that play each other, but it's just a minor league. Well, there is no NFL minor league.
That's what I'm saying they need.
Right, but okay, it's not just as simple as saying, well, all right, Carolina, you get a minor league. There has to be an entire
the entire NFL, every single team needs a minor league team.
Right, but even still, you're getting drafted from college and you're still going to the minor league team first if you're going.
Not every
That's
time.
That's
No,
what baseball
some people
does.
go straight to the bigs, bro.
Yeah, some of them.
It's
but
just like
not,
the G League for basketball. And what I'm saying is that you have to have somewhere where you keep developing this talent that's just not ready, that isn't top 10 talent right out the gate. There will still be players who leave right away and go and start. But then there's going to be players that are going to be developmental players who could be a great offensive guard in 2 years, and they go play in the minor leagues and they get called up.
Yeah, but then I still think they should just work their way up the roster the old-fashioned way.
They
I mean, I hear
can't
what you're
because
saying,
there's only 53 spots. You can't. That's the whole point. What do these guys do when they don't make the roster, Cody? Their career just is over.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but also look at what Kevin is saying too. You only have a certain amount of time to play football. You're going to go from college and then to go play more minor league, or
it might be an opportunity for kids to circumvent the college system.
I don't know. But I think you're going to have a mix of players coming out of high school that are looking to join, but also a bunch of college players. But that's okay. Think of the difference in body types between a 20-year-old and a 25-year-old.
Well, that's what I've been trying to tell you, but you've been drafting. You drafted Brian Burns when he was 20. You didn't care about that then.
Again,
you just told me Bryce Young was so incredible because he was 21.
If you're coming right out of high school, you're 18.
Right,
you're not ready to play against.
You're ready to play. You're ready to play against college football players, and they're ultimately just about that league. Okay.
I just think there's too many.
The NFL could benefit from it, but it's never going to work. It's never going to work the way they're doing it now, where they're hoping somebody else does it for them.
Right.
They're hoping the XFL does it. They're hoping the AAF does it, or AFL or whatever the fuck it was called, because it's not going to make money. It's like the G League. The G League don't fucking make money, but it makes the NBA better over time. So, I mean, but you're right. Maybe the length of career is the issue with that. Let's take another call. Only 2 more to go.
Yeah. Hey, what's going on? C3.
What's up?
Cody, Professor, CK.
What's up, Al?
I think that paying these players, I mean, they need to get percentage of something, but just to pay them over like this, I mean, it's gonna turn it into like it's gonna be a one division league. I mean, whoever can pay the most, and that's gonna be the division. And then I think that, these kids are getting paid already. I mean, all right. I mean, what makes it wrong for these kids to get scholarships? I mean, these kids are on scholarship. It's not like they're not getting paid at all. I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, fuck.
In theory,
kind of. I got a solution to this.
I could have got a scholarship. The fuck? I mean, like,
yeah. I mean, everybody
it's not
wishes
bad,
they
bro.
could
I
get
mean,
one.
like, I think they should keep it the same way. I don't really like this, because it's gonna be like, now what if Harvard really starts paying money? Now Harvard's gonna be the fucking best football team in the nation? That shit sounds stupid. Like,
well,
for real,
they were for the first 10 years of college football.
Harvard, Dartmouth, like,
they also don't let in people not smart enough.
Rocket
that's where they can't sacrifice
smart
their
people, like, nobody wants to see that. No one wants to see Harvard being the #1 school in the nation.
Well, that's what's gone against the Ivy Leagues.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, like, we'll see.
But also,
I don't know what you guys were talking about before this, but I don't know. But
all right, man. Thanks for the call, Cody. Go ahead.
No, it did end up being a fun conversation. Not Panther related, but who fucking cares at this point? But no, like, the difference with like Harvard and Stanford and Yale, is that those places, they have such a crazy requirement academically.
Which is why they've had trouble in basketball, even.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like if it wasn't made enough of how Christian McCaffrey went to Stanford. Like, that's a smart dude. Okay, that guy is
you have to meet the minimum requirements. You have to be
Richard Sherman
entrance into the college. You have to have the SAT, ACT score that gets you in. And it's when these colleges start sacrificing those things that they lose their academic reputation in those ways.
And you know how this factors into it? A bunch of years ago, they were giving these players these classes that weren't even real classes.
Bro, it's at UNC Chapel Hill. It's right down the road.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Like, so it's always been a joke. It's always been
that was an extreme example, though.
But what I'm saying is, it's always been professional football, but under the table because of all these rules and regulations. You know, amateurism was always bullshit.
Now they just got to pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
No, is that you're right about that. Is first, the Carolina thing was an extreme example, but also the very worst part of it was the hit that they took to their academic credibility as an institution, right? Because they're considered like one of the top 5 public schools in the nation, right? I mean, you're talking like in the entire nation, UNC Chapel Hill is thought to be one of the most prestigious public institutions, right? So the Ivy Leagues, they do have that component, that barrier, right? Like when you go to these places, that's what they were built for. So you got to have a 50. So the basketball player has to meet that standard. So that will rule them out. That's a good point with that. The thing about the academics, and even at any school or good school, it's not that it's just a fraud or it's a complete fraud. Like, it's not like they're taking fake classes or that the coaches are calling up. What they do is they give them incredible resources of tutoring and things like this that other people probably don't have. But they also end up getting bullshit degrees, right? It's like, here, take basically, ultimately, it's like, think of just taking home ec all the time, right? It's like, we're going to find the cupcake teacher with the cupcake class with the this and that. The solution for that, though, and that's why getting the scholarship just isn't as cool as what people try to make it out to be, because you're really not a person who gets an academic scholarship. They get a ride and then they go to school.
Yeah,
they don't have to like work at the school for 90,000 hours a week.
Right, but that's not true either, Tony, because they are working. They're working at football.
No, what I'm saying is a kid who just gets a complete academic scholarship who's not an athlete, they don't have to go and performance. Like, they just go and do the books.
Yeah.
And they devote all their time. So it's not just like a regular academic scholarship where a kid just got it because he was low income and was really bright, and we want to give this and we give him that's just not how it is. The solutions in this, or I think it is, and I heard this from a former, so I didn't come up with my own, I heard it from a former athlete, is a voucher system. And that is, here, come play football, and we give you 4 years of a scholarship that you can use later on in your life.
Yeah.
So you do get the scholarship. Imagine these pro football players who go back, you see them and they'll be like, oh, I graduated from whatever. Right. Yeah. Imagine the degree they could get if they just they're retired, or say you fizzled out and you didn't make it to the NFL, which is most of these people. Right. You're done playing college sports. You've grown up a little bit. You've worked a couple of years and you go, you know what? I really want to make the most of this. A voucher, a 4-year voucher, say, hey, you can use this scholarship anytime over the next 20 years. That's the solution.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Like I said, I don't love any of those changes that not only that you proposed, but it's just being proposed.
What do you mean? You don't like the voucher system?
Well,
what's wrong with
I don't know. It's just
because then they don't have to take fake classes. We know they're college. We know they're athletes.
But still, if you're saying, okay, well, yeah, you can come back and get your degree later. Then again, the school aspect of it is just bullshit. Like,
it's always been bullshit. This would actually make the school part more valuable.
That doesn't change. Like, what does that voucher do for me? If I go,
what it does is later on in life, you could get a meaningful degree Not
Yeah,
that's
but you
one's
could
for
do that.
show.
Yeah, but you could do that now.
You
Players
can't
their
get a
degree all the
scholarship
time.
for that. You would have to go pay for it.
No, but I'm saying players also get their scholarships, and
What
not
do you mean
everyone
they
does.
get their degrees? You mean?
Right.
Yeah, but you're thinking of the
everyone gets
player
their
who makes
degree.
it to the show, to the league. 95% of these guys aren't going to the pros, Cody. The star at Clemson, most of them are not going to make it in the NFL. So
Right,
it's
but
like,
then
yeah, we
those
can look at
colleges-
Richard Sherman. We can look at these other guys, but they're the
But
anomalies of
Tony, what
college
do the
football.
colleges get from the vouchers? Because you're not
They got a player.
But no, but listen, you're getting a player, but as a university, you're trying to get your graduation numbers up and show how many students you're graduating. If you have a bunch of
we're
people,
talking 200
if you have
out of
a bunch of
30,000.
people,
If
no,
they
but-
leave for the NFL, they
no,
don't
we're not. But
graduate.
again, you're not just talking about football, Tony. You're talking about all of college athletics, from gymnastics to baseball.
Well,
to
I think you can handle
basketball.
different sports differently.
Well, but again, is that what's fair for one sport and what's fair for
Oh,
the
I can
other?
tell you this
But-
is the football is different than
but
lacrosse.
again,
homie.
though, but if you're going there for that sport and you end up going professional in that sport, and then you add all those sports together, now those universities are no longer graduating those players.
Bro, I
because
tell you
it's
this
just
is
a voucher.
95%. Man, if we really looked at the statistics, I actually work in higher academic. I promise you, that is a drop in the bucket in statistics of graduation rates. You're talking about 90 players on a football team, and you're talking 30,000 students at East Carolina University. That's not
Yeah, but-
moving the fucking needle, bro. If anything, you're moving the needle later on because they'll actually graduate at some point. Most of these college athletes, well, I guess now because they're
Yeah, but
chasing the extra
What
year.
even if you give them a voucher, they're not ever guaranteed to use it. I mean, maybe they will, but it also doesn't mean shit.
What
You
I'm
know, like, they
saying
could
is it
use
would
or
be
not.
more mean. The people that say, oh, you're getting something out of this is like the person, the old school guy who has told us forever is, oh, we're giving you an opportunity for an education. Bullshit. It's fucking not real. It's a farce when it comes to the high-end athletics. Okay, so maybe if you're talking about a lacrosse player, but guess what? They don't give out full rides for lacrosse. They don't. They give like one, maybe, just to make Title IX requirements. So what I'm saying is the argument that we're giving you an education is bullshit now. The voucher situation would make it less bullshit because somebody might actually get a real fucking education at some point.
I don't know. I disagree.
I don't know.
I
Okay.
don't have to go deeper, but I disagree.
I feel like you just don't want to agree, but okay.
No, I feel like that doesn't
Yeah,
help
Cody's
anything.
point, I mean, the Marlins minor leagues team is like in Tulsa. Like, they can be anywhere. Who cares?
They
As
can
long
have
as
them
they're in
play
America,
at college
we don't
universities.
need them anywhere else. I mean, as long as they're in America, they're playing football, they're getting better, you know, but also to this point, like, I don't think, I don't know, I'm going to say it again, man, but no, I'm not going to say it again, but like, just let the players play. I mean, let the amateur athletics be amateur athletics, and then that's it. I mean, that's what we got the Olympics for. If they want amateur athletics, man, let them put them in the fucking goddamn Olympics. Let them start catching up with us. They got soccer in it. They got soccer in the Olympics. So put NFL in the Olympics. You know, we just beat them until they fucking catch up, like we did with basketball. They caught up. They caught up to a point. Look at it. What is he? He's three-time MVP. Jokic. He caught up. So they let him catch up. They'll catch up. You know, if they really want to invest their money in that, what we invest our money into. But I don't think, I mean, I don't think there's no reason to, I mean, although I will let my daughter get an NIL deal once she starts playing volleyball in college.
Guess what? She's gonna get
we'll
$50
talk about
a
that
week.
later. in about 2 years.
They
girl
give her
sports is
shit,
booming right
bro.
now.
Yeah, but look, is at the end of the point is that unless it's just like what the conversation we had about the WNBA, and we were talking about the salaries and stuff about a month ago, is we don't go watch those sports. So any NIL you're going to get is going to be mandated by the college to meet Title IX requirements. So you don't look like you're entirely just focusing on male sports or something like that. But no car dealership is going to be like, hey, check out our star spiker here signing autographs. Maybe according to the pictures I see on Facebook of volleyball players, that there is one angle you could get that.
Oh,
and we might have to add them to the C3 page.
Yeah. But I mean, again, so Tony, do you know that the past couple of years, the person who has received the most NIL money in college football is a girl. It's a gymnast, an LSU gymnast named Livy Dunn. And these perv kids would literally they would wait for the LSU bus to arrive.
Oh, I remember her. But that's like
but Tony, but now
that's basically she had an OnlyFans page.
Well, but also Tony, if you look at, for example, Caitlin Clark, who is
Mel Gibson. You mean?
Oh, shut up. But
Clark, he will
now you're having these scenarios where now women's sports are kind of getting more looks, and women's college ball is bigger than ever. All that money and the NIL, all this stuff is going to continue to go through more than just football athletes, more than just football sports. That's why I don't like the voucher thing. The university gets absolutely nothing in return for that voucher. In my mind, that is not going to equal. No, okay, but they got that anyway, though.
No,
they already got the player. So what's the point? There you have the player.
We're trying to make the scholarship more meaningful. That's what we were trying to do. That was it. Academically more meaningful. Al wants one more. Al, let's call 3. Come up.
Yeah, Professor, I don't really like that change right there. Like, just because you're in school and you got somebody's license in your name. But okay, I mean, yeah, you take the money and you run. But for you to get a voucher for later in life, nah, bro, you got to make it like me. The fuck did I work for?
You didn't play football.
Man, I went to school.
But you didn't play football. I work for?
No. What did you go to school for? You ain't get no fucking voucher.
But I didn't play
pay your
football.
Shit off. Ain't no fucking way. No. I don't like that at all. That's a horrible.
I didn't also get a scholarship.
I'm gonna say that right away.
All right,
that's a horrible take.
Okay.
That's a horrible thing.
Cody, bring up the next slide and cover me for a half second.
Yeah. In fact, we can sort of power through them. And CK, this is one of the things that I definitely got to be annoying about in the C3 film room is that I noticed that Bryce, specifically toward the end of the season, whenever he was throwing the ball, it just sort of seemed to me that he wasn't pushing off of his back foot to get as much power into the throw as possible. And this was from Dan of the Cloth on the Panthers subreddit. He put, is anyone else noticing that Bryce's footwork is the theme of the offseason? Last year, it became painfully obvious that when the protection broke down, I thought Bryce's mechanics started to slip. He didn't have the proper base to throw off his back foot. Honestly, I thought his footwork was a little lazy and panicky. He doesn't have the size or arm strength to deliver balls well because he can't get quite enough torque without a proper base when the pocket isn't muddy. Canales has made this point numerous times that the footwork is what they're working on. In the videos emerging from OTAs, Bryce is really starting to do the Peyton Manning shuffle, where he bounces and plants his feet together quickly, like stomping in rapid succession. Stroud also does this well. This allows for him to get a base quickly and all that stuff. It'll be interesting to see if these tweaks can help him overcome his physical deficiencies. And that's an interesting point, that when you don't have a pocket to throw from, you're not going to feel comfortable enough to plant your feet and throw.
No.
So maybe that does help Bryce this year. But I'm also just hoping overall that he worked more on that back foot when he's throwing the football to really drive off of that back foot. I remember hearing an interview where Joe Burrow talked about that after his first year in the NFL. He said, I needed to be able to generate more power on the football. And he put active strides into changing parts of his throwing motion to do that. So I'm hoping that Bryce is on the way to do the same thing. And the better O-line play will also hopefully better help with the footwork around him.
Yeah. I mean, I think.
Did you want to add to that, Tony, or CK?
No, I think. Go ahead, CK.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think that we can all agree that Bryce had things that he needed to improve on. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. I just think at this point in time, he's approaching it the way that Dave Canales has so far in this offseason. I think has been he hasn't sugarcoated things when it comes to Bryce. He's been, pretty straight up in saying that there's things that he needs to improve on, but he's done it in a way that will, overwhelmingly be seen as a positive move in the right direction. Every single quarterback has something they're going to be working on in the offseason. You could probably nitpick even Patrick Mahomes and certain things that he's done. The difference is he won. And
that's the only reason you're not nitpicking him is just like he's the only one that hasn't been nitpicked on any mechanics or anything because each and every year. Actually, but did you see came in with fat belly?
Yeah.
But it was stupid to me. He's always had a dad bod.
Yeah.
He's never been tricked.
He's off limits until he's not, right? Like he's the guy. CK, I think they're right though, is every quarterback first of all has anything to even veterans, you know what I'm saying? To me though, when I looked at Bryce, I didn't go, oh, his football works. Look, I think we saw that he fucking had zero time. So we'll just see is his footwork is always going to be important. It's important for every quarterback at any moment. But I almost it's like a nothing burger story to me in some ways, because well, how can you have good footwork when you have a terrible offensive line?
Argument would be that that's when you have to have footwork more than any other time.
Right.
Like if not having proper footwork while a collapsing pocket is taking place is almost a guarantee that you're going to be throwing ducks or, not really being able to drive the ball where you need it to be, especially, past, tackles with their hands up, things like that. So
yeah, that's a good point. I think the other thing
it's
too,
hard
though,
to develop it when that's happening. That's the problem.
Yes. Now that's a great point. Is like, how do you improve something when you're under fire, basically? Yeah. I think the other thing too is that, and I just try to remember, even with like the Mingo conversation, this is while we want all these guys to be awesome from day one, I don't want their best product on day one. I want them to be better in 5 years. So like, if he's not improving his footwork, if he's not improving as a quarterback, that means he was at his apex of what he could be.
Yeah.
All right. Next.
Let's
just go through it. We're about done.
Yep. This is
insane.
Again, from Reddit. Redditor talking about how tickets to Germany, even the mid-level seats, are between $1,500 to $2,000. That's absurd.
C3 trip to Munich. When the ticket price, look, the most expensive part to go into Europe should be the plane ticket.
Yeah.
Right, is like every trip, the destination, like is the travel is the most important. Like as a sandwich in Paris doesn't cost that much more than a sandwich in, where in Charlotte, right? Okay, it might be $2 more, but it's $1,000 plane ticket. That's the expensive part of getting there.
Argument would say that when you look at the comparison right here, they talk about the London trip that was in 2019, and I think the world has changed in a drastic way. I think Europe and many of these other countries are seeing what is happening in what some, what I think they might be looking at things like the Super Bowl costs and things like that. And I think it makes it an easy decision to go that route. If that's real, if those are the actual prices for just the game tickets,
what kind of Germans paying that shit?
There's not. I think they're banking on Americans traveling to Germany and paying for that.
Well, but also it is.
They pick the wrong
it is.
teams.
but it's a rarity over there. There is a big German market out there for the NFL, but since there isn't that many games, maybe that's how they justify it. I think it'll be the mixture of rarity for the German market and the amount of people that are going to be flying into Germany to see this.
Do you think that it is almost an effort to prevent Americans to go so that they can have the actual reason for going to Germany be the main thing, and that is having Germans at the actual, or people from Europe at the actual game?
I almost just can't believe the number, to be honest, CK.
I mean, to be honest with you, the fact that those are essentially the same price for nosebleeds at the Super Bowl is a wild thought. And that's a cheap seat. Like, that's if you're getting lucky.
So I like follow on like different, Reddit or something like this about like, I'll read, maybe it's the algorithm about inflation stuff and things like this, but I see a lot of Europeans, particularly people from Great Britain, commenting about this a lot. Is like, they don't go out to eat like Americans, right? Like, they are talking about like how much they spend on their weekly budget, and stuff like this, and it's so much less. And I saw, and sure, these are what are they, anecdotal references, just to one-offs, but it's like a guy's like, we go out twice a month to dinner. So it just is hard for me to believe that there is so much expendable income in Germany to where people will be like, oh, yeah,
that's a fuckload of expendable income.
Yeah.
Kev says the average price of a Super Bowl ticket in 95 was $60, which is the equivalent to $140 when adjusted for inflation. Live games ain't for the common man.
That's true. That's true. I'm just surprised this number. When I saw that figure, I just felt like, how the hell?
Say mid to lower bowl. It didn't talk about the nosebleeds on that, did it?
It's just expensive as fuck.
Yeah, that's still. But then imagine what the nosebleeds are. They're $600 to $700.
What's the most you've ever spent for a ticket?
Me?
Yeah,
I probably never spent more than $150 for a ticket.
Most I ever spent was 2012. Panthers hosted the Denver Broncos. Peyton Manning coming to town. We sat like in the lower level in a corner. $250 a ticket. And the reason we had that is because for the last 2 years we had sat in the low. I've always been a upper deck guy when it comes to Panthers, right? But when we were terrible in 2010, we got these cheap ass tickets to see the Saints, and we sat on the 45-yard line at like in the 6th row for like 45, but like 60. It was like dirt. It was awesome. I mean, the game sucked. We got beat 33-3 or some shit like that or whatever. So then we kind of got once you sit with the rich people, it gets good to you. You're like, oh shit, this is nice sitting on a lower level. So I was like, oh, I splurged a little the next year. I said, but my buddy who is very good with money, makes a lot more money than me, and lives in Charlotte. We had always gone to a game once a year for a long time pre-pandemic. And we're sitting in the stadium, and we were probably losing by this point. So that might've had, so he nudges me. He goes, can we not spend $250 next year on these tickets? And I was like, no problem. But I was like, the guy who made more money than me, had more expendable income, was like, ugh, this is a little outside my range.
Yeah. They're so crazy expensive, man. And then I could detail you all the difficulties there is to get fucking handicapped.
Oh, I know. Did I tell you about the shit for the Dallas Cowboys shit this past year? I know I said it on the podcast. Is my mother-in-law is Facebook. You just know a billion people that you don't know.
You mean the tickets that was like,
and it was like, and I thought she was like going to be giving away a discount or something. And she was like, oh, they're just $1,500 a piece. I was like, I didn't even respond.
Right. Yeah, no thanks.
All right. Next up, interesting.
So this was pretty interesting news that it appears as though the NFL is trying to do away with OTAs. This is from
the Players Association is.
Yeah, well, so the NFL Players Association is working to finalize a proposal to overhaul the offseason starting as soon as 2025, eliminating voluntary on-field workouts in the spring in favor of a longer training camp ramp-up, with players reporting in mid-June to early July per sources. The union has been seeking feedback on the plan from players, a majority of whom support the change, a source says. A formal proposal is expected this summer. Off-season work rules are collectively bargained, and any changes would require an agreement by the NFL and with the NFL. Under new leadership, the NFLPA has consulted medical and performance experts in hope of creating common sense solutions for reducing injuries, maximizing player recovery time. Virtual classroom would still be permitted in the spring, but no practice until camp. The NFLPA push for a revised offseason isn't directly tied to an 18-game season. However, it's worth noting a longer schedule would further shorten the time between the season and training camp. Another reason consolidating players' time off into one long break would make sense. I saw Daniel Jeremiah said that if you're a family man, this would really suck, because then when your kids are out of school, you're still having to report, like when they're on their vacation or whatever, or that they'd be on the vacation. It was one of the other ones. Like they would cross up with each other in a way where either one would be in school and one would be at training camp. I don't know. I continue to hear Roger Goodell talk about them wanting to take away preseason games. I feel like a lot of changes are coming to the format of the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much. I just think it's beneficial for these players to interact with the coaching staff. So if they can do the classroom stuff, and you're like, really, to be honest, I don't know how much 3 days of trying to do something in physical format is real, and with such a long break is actually, it might be better for the teams to be together for a longer period of time. Than not. And so, who cares?
Yeah. Not really big news.
A nothing burger.
Yeah.
Big old nothing burger. This is something that you added.
No, that's from last week, I think. We can skip that. We're
sure?
done. Yeah.
Okay. And then Jeremy Chan and the Commanders get up.
Looks good.
I see people like nostalgic about this. Like,
I like Jeremy Chin. I almost feel bad. I just feel like we did work more of a disservice to him than he did to us.
Oh yeah. I don't think that's really much debate on that, to be honest with you.
And then we have a Frenchman.
Also last week. Let's not even talk about it. That's it.
Yeah,
that's the show. We just like some fools up and get out of here. You're listening to the C3 Panthers Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. Thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you for your calls. Thank you for your time. Now it's time to ice some fools up. It's our moment where we get to step outside the bounds of football or stay within the bounds of football and tell someone to ice up, toughen up, get it together. Let's go, Cody.
Let's get it.
Ice up, son. Ice up.
Who wants to go first? I don't really have anything fantastic, just commonsensical. Oh, I did want to bring this up. I saw this cool tweet earlier and I lost it. About, please be still up on my. Ryan Reynolds has bought and sold $14.3 billion worth of businesses, basically by being an accidental, brilliant businessman.
Wait, who did?
Ryan Reynolds. That's the guy, right? That owns Mint Mobile.
Yeah.
Avion, Gin, all of this shit. Like, he's like this brilliant businessman who just like finds products he likes, buys the company, and then fucking makes a great commercial, and it goes nutso. I thought that was a cool story. $14.3 billion in business investments for Ryan Reynolds. And he's one of my favorite. Have you ever seen anything Ryan Reynolds did and not like it?
I mean, really, Deadpool is like the only thing that anyone knows him from.
Oh no, he's got a bunch of great stuff. But you
And Wilder.
No, okay, go ahead. He's got the one where I'll give you some lists. I gotta look them up though. Go ahead. Whatever you want to talk about.
Mine is real quick. I don't have a great one. But I just don't understand how people think that in a day and age where everybody has a cell phone, that if you're gonna do some shit like this, so obviously, in front of everyone, like how do you not know someone's gonna record you being fucking shady as shit? And then he gets mad that they got caught and she tries to swag at the person filming.
No pegues. Le estaba robando la chica. Le estaba robando. Ella te estaba robando.
I just thought that was fucking hilarious because people are willing to do this shit out in the fucking broad daylight. No, but that's pretty much it for me, man. I don't have too much.
Okay. Just
I might have another one.
Hitman's wife's bodyguard. 6 Underground.
Oh, no one has ever seen any of those movies.
So they're all good, dude. They're all good.
I saw all of them.
You saw all of them? Well, maybe I just don't see enough movies.
Hold on. I saw some old stuff that he was like fucking great in. He's been in Ted, Green Lantern. Let's see. He was in Harold and Kumar Goes to White Castle. I don't remember that. I don't know. I like him. I always find him to be a fun. And there's another guy. Who's the other guy that was in the new Ghostbusters shit that kind of just reminds me of the same thing? Who did the
Paul Rudd?
Yeah, like him too. They're just like enjoyable and everything. They do.
Yeah, Paul Rudd's cool. But I do have one more, and it's very, very fast. And I just found it. So Kate Blanchett, she's a very famous Hollywood actress. She's worth $95 million. Somebody was talking to her about something, and of course, she had to virtue signal all the different things. But then she goes on to claim that she's a middle class human.
Look, I mean, I'm white, I'm privileged, I'm middle class, and one can be accused of having a bit of a white savior complex.
Bitch, I don't want to hear you talk about fucking white saviors, and you're calling yourself middle class. Like, bitch, how out of touch are you?
He's like, Ryan Reynolds owns $14.3 billion investments. I'm fucking middle class.
Yeah, I'm glad I found that. What a fucking
my gosh,
moron, dude.
Yeah, idiots. CK, you got anything?
No.
All right, my ice up pick, and I just didn't have one. I was unprepared, but I'm just gonna ice up all of the Democratic Party and Joe Biden and all of this, simply because Trump's polling numbers are just going up.
Dude, I saw
it's like these guys can't do
the last one I saw was 51-38 for Trump, dude.
They got this file going on. They got all of this and these mugs. Oh my gosh. Ice up.
Democrats,
what a political disaster. And I don't care about the politics of it. I don't care a single thing about policy or anything.
Yeah,
but the idea, I think if we go back, is like incumbent presidents have such a large advantage to win, right? Is just being the incumbent is an advantage, right? Okay. We could say it's not always in these mugs. I don't even know. It's like,
bro, it's honestly embarrassing.
It's like a disaster.
Dude, I have a buddy named Brandon. Him and his wife, they're true blue union people. They live up in Pennsylvania, and dude, they're fucking panicking.
Yeah. I've been telling you Trump's gonna win, and I have been saying this for years, and I have no interest in it. I didn't vote in the last presidential election. I skipped that, but I have no desire for either of these candidates or either of these. But anyway, I just think it's like if Trump, and I think Chappelle said this or a comedian said this, if like Trump actually, like his mugshot helps him. It's like the Democrats are so bad, even the things they try to do to bring down the poll numbers only just make the poll numbers go up. trial going up. Trump vote going up. It's just wild. It's just damn.
It's also like they're not interested in beating him.
Do you think they're not going to run Biden?
I don't
Is
know.
there a possibility at the last moment they stick in a different candidate?
Dude, I don't know how they're not thinking about it. How could you not be fucking thinking about it? Like, whether everyone thinks that he's too old to do this shit. So, you know.
I don't know. Is there a way that you go into the Democratic primary? I mean, not the primary, but
nobody elects the VP
and they
either.
just.
If it's Kamala, no one's fucking.
No, I don't know. It's just fucking bananas. Imagine being like
Gavin Newsom if they shoved him down people's throat. Like, what
also
options do they even have?
a lot of people. Anyway, that's it. That's it. I don't really care about any of that shit.
I'm not voting for any of them. You're better off writing a letter to Santa if you want to change your world.
This is C3 Panthers Podcast. Take us out of here, Cody.
C3 Panther Nation. Until next time, keep pounding.